Hi, good morning, everyone. Just before we start, I want to thank all of you all for coming in. There are quite a few still coming in now, and welcome to today's Entrepreneur Bootcamp. The whole purpose behind this talk is to cover a few different aspects. One, some of the students who are on the Project Deep program, who have actually been running through the entrepreneurship course over the last 2 weeks. This will sort of just give you a little bit of an overview to complement what has been covered by those facilitators who have been running through finance and marketing and those areas. Secondly, is for those on the KLCT startup entrepreneurship program, again, trying to complement that. And for this entrepreneur bootcamp, we've actually invited anyone who wants to get some knowledge on business or get, just a different view, some of the things that you should be or could be looking at, just to cover all these things. I'm Raja Singham with the BAC Education Group, and I very much believe that we need to train and learn, throughout our lives. And I hope that some of these things which I've learned over the last 30 years are of use and can be applied to your own lives and your own businesses as you move ahead. These are tough times, but I think it's all doable. The times like this are the times we actually pull our socks up and do our best. And the first thing is, when we start this, do understand that there's nothing, some of this you may know, some of this may be new. I just want to actually get you all to think about these things, some of the concepts, which I always do in all my talks or anything that I'm doing, because I firmly believe that that's the right foundation and the basis that you need to have. So I want to welcome all of you all here, and we start. Now, the structure is this. If you can, put in your questions. My colleague will be actually then sending it to me via WhatsApp so that it'll be quicker. And some of you all may put things on chat. Don't raise your hands just yet. For the first half, I think about an hour and a half, I want to run through the slides very quickly. If you've got any questions, just dump them in the Q&A if you can, or the chat, send your questions in. And the last 1 hour, I just want to devote to questions. So then I'll try and open up the videos, and if we can actually try and cover as much as we can. But initially, it's going to be more me just trying to flood you with as much information as you can. And if you have any questions, you can ask. I'll even give you my phone number at the end of the session, so you can, even after the session, whatever, if you always want to WhatsApp or bounce something off, you can always do that. Okay, so let's start. The first thing, now some of you all are key entrepreneurs, okay, and you've already been doing it for a while. But I think the first question any entrepreneur should ask themselves always is, or anyone who wants to go into entrepreneurship, is whether you have what it takes. Because honestly, while there's a lot of these things about, people looking at, I can make money, entrepreneurs, you look at the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, but for every successful entrepreneur, there are about 100 others who had problems starting, and who have various challenges they would have faced. So you got to see, do you have what it takes? And the Harvard Business Review actually has listed, I'm going to run through it very quickly. I'm going to put everything out on the screen at one go, because these are the skills that makes an entrepreneur. Okay, the skills that makes an entrepreneur. And you got to look at this and see, do you have all of this? And if you don't have some of it, can you work on some of it? They'll say, some say entrepreneurs are born, others say entrepreneurs are made. I think they're actually made. I don't think anybody is born to be an entrepreneur. There's no like entrepreneur gene, so to speak. People become entrepreneurs sometimes through their life experience, what they've gone through. Maybe they're entrepreneurs in the family. Maybe they admired entrepreneurs. Maybe they wanted to do something different. Maybe they didn't want to work for somebody, whatever it is. But I think entrepreneurs are created, and you're created through your life experiences and things you go through. So creativity, vision, ability to identify opportunities, and passion. Now, creativity is there. Entrepreneurs have a vision. They have that ability to see. Sometimes, one of my colleagues will always say, you have the ability to see around the bend where others may not see, and see new things. And that's also tied to the ability to identify opportunities. So a lot of the time, entrepreneurs, when others may see a problem, an entrepreneur will see an opportunity. And an entrepreneur will be able to identify whether there's a good opportunity to follow or to pursue. From a people skills point of view, sorry, I'm not going to go through each of these boxes. Each of this can be take a long time. Leadership. I think leadership is one of the most important things as far as skill, persuasion, influence, network building. Now, because if you're the entrepreneur and you're running your business, the key thing you need is the ability to inspire and empower your people, and to get them to buy into your vision, to buy into what you want to do. So that persuasion and influence has to be there. And another key thing is the ability to build a network, because at all times, no one can actually operate alone. You need to build a network of people around you internally as your team and externally that you can actually count on when you want to move things. Your work style will also be goal-oriented, perseverance, self-challenging, experimental mindset. In other words, entrepreneurs generally have to be very goal-oriented. I want to, reach this target in sales. I want to get so many customers. These are my KPIs. So you can't just sort of be sitting there with no idea of, with no goals. Okay. Now, perseverance, because all of entrepreneurs will run through immense hardship throughout your time. Sometimes maybe the beginning when your business is just starting. Sometimes maybe later when competition comes in or some other company comes in and disrupts that your whole, that comfortable life and being that you have had, and you are self-challenging. You always want to do better. If you perform to X, you want to move things up. And an experimental mindset. You're prepared to try new things. If you're an entrepreneur who never wants to try new things, at some point you will become irrelevant and become outdated. Now, financial savvy. You need to be financially savvy. In other words, you must be comfortable with money and financial governance, and you must understand the rules, how money in the business operates, all money matters, and so on. Another aspect is this. Many of the entrepreneurs have actually had family members who have started businesses, or they've worked in a small business or a startup. And that's what so you work in a company, you saw your boss, he ran the company, you saw how he did, and sometimes you think like, hey, I can do this, and you want to go and start something. Or you may have had, sometimes your parents owned a provision shop, they may have owned a gas station, they had a business, whatever that business is, and that sort of gave you the entrepreneurial background. So this is one, but not many people may also be first-time business people. So this is another aspect to look at. Now, for me, every talk of mine, and for those who have attended, the first 2 or 3 slides are always on this purpose. Because for me, I think you have to see what's your purpose. Always ask yourself, what is it that drives you? Why did you go into business? And if you don't have a purpose, honestly, when things get tough, it's going to be very hard for you to stay on course. So I'll give you an example. Some of the largest companies in the world, like Amazon, the purpose for Amazon was to be the most customer-centric company in the world. That's their purpose. And that's what actually drives them. Okay. I'm trying to make sure that, they improve the service for customers throughout and find new ways to improve that experience. When you look at people like Google, for example, Google's purpose was to be the keeper of the world's information. So they want to make sure that you can go to one source to find all the world's information, and they try their best to organize it for you in a way you can find it. Now, for us at BAC, our purpose is very simple, is to use education as a means to transform lives. So it's transforming lives through education. So when we look at that, transforming lives through education, the key thing to remember here is it's not about students coming to us and studying for a diploma or a degree or a master's. That's one part of it. But transforming lives through education basically means trying to make sure that whoever comes here and gets an education will be able to look after themselves, get their families, and as they go on for the rest of their life, that they do have that ability to contribute, not just to themselves and their families, but also to the community. And one of the reasons when we talk about transforming lives is things like our free school program under BAC Flix or SPM Flix. We have 170,000 students studying for free on a free online platform. We have we have taught teachers, about 1,800 school teachers on teaching using technology. We have trained 1,500 single moms from the B40 category on entrepreneurship. We have tried to teach people on cover things like the area on rare disease, for example, educate the public on rare disease, so that people understand. So a lot of the times, transforming lives through education, is beyond whatever that you would think that the business is doing. But even, for example, like educating people on inclusivity, the need to have the special needs community represented in the workforce, the need to have a diverse workforce, the need to have an inclusive workforce. Now we're actually doing Project Deep. Project Deep is actually a course, a program that we're running to train 10,000 Malaysians for the digital economy. So it's to help get enterprises and individuals into the digital economy. And we're training about 10,000 people in courses, which are digital tech type courses, from things like data analytics to web development to digital marketing to social media marketing to graphic design and all this new stuff, in addition to whatever skill set they already have, because there is a need for us to build a workforce. And that's the 50 million fund that we've actually set up. So when we look at our purpose is to transform lives through education. And when we look at that, we don't limit ourselves to, okay, this is our core business and this is what we do. We need to run the core properly, as we'll find out. But our purpose is to actually look at the community in general to see how we can actually increase and to transform, more than 1 million lives through education. So we now have 150, 160,000 on free education platform, 10,000 people being trained for the digital economy. And this is on top of the 6,000 students who actually study here for degree and diploma and the formal education. So it's your purpose that gives you that reason to wake up, happy in the morning, and that will drive you and that will drive your organization. So what I'm saying is find your purpose, okay? Find your purpose. Now, today, it's not about profits. If your purpose is I want to make a lot of money, I want to make profits, I want to, that's your goal, then I'll tell you, your business will not last. Whatever you set up will not last. You won't have an enjoyable life. So find what drives you, and then once you find what drives you, drive your organization, use that to push you and use that to guide your people, to inspire your people, to empower your people to actually go and make a difference. Today with COVID-19, it's been tough. It's a lot about survival. It's a lot about, but to me, the question is this: all of us as businesses, if you go out there to make a difference, to make a positive impact, the money will come. Okay. Now, in every slide or wherever possible, I've actually included things at the bottom in a sort of a light green color there. So you'll see there, what is your purpose? What drives you? That is actually homework. So I want you all to think. You can't do it in the next 1-2 minutes. Go back and think, what's my purpose? It might take you days, 2 days, 3 days, but what do you want to do for the rest of your life? I think we've been given this life. We should appreciate it, make the most of it. So I think everyone should have a single purpose of making the most of the life that you have been given, making the most of the life that you've been given. I think that should be for everybody. Okay. And then the other thing is, what else can I do? Do I want my purpose maybe to help the poor? My purpose maybe to ensure, that everybody has access to education. My purpose maybe to, provide jobs for 10,000 people or 20,000 people and drive them. My purpose maybe, whatever it is, look at it. And if you have a purpose, you will be on your way. Values. Now, while your purpose is your why you want to do and how you want to be doing, the next thing is your values. Always run your business by values. Now, what are your values? Now, to me, your values are your moral compass. You need a moral compass because you know why? We can't be just at certain times deciding what we will do, what we won't do. If you have your values defined, you always know what you are prepared to do and what you will definitely not do. Okay, and these act as your moral compass and they'll guide you throughout life. Now, I can't tell you what your values should be. You should go and look at that. But these are 6 values which I try to live by, not just for individually, but for the company. The first thing is always have integrity. In whatever we do, we have to have a level of integrity. The second thing is accountability. Be accountable for your actions. So if you did something wrong, go out, apologize, make it right, but be accountable. Okay. The third one is tenacity. Tenacity is that ability to, to have that perseverance, that ability to change and to always be able to overcome whatever challenges, whatever hurdles, whatever comes your way. So you need tenacity. I went through a very tough time during the currency crisis about 23 years ago where I lost all my money. I was 29 years old. I lost 30 million because of the currency crisis and I was, for all intents and purposes, bankrupt or insolvent. I never got that because of the fact that we did whatever we could. But 30 million when you're 29 years of age and in the 90s was a lot of money, far more than I had. And it was a tough time. But the question was this, not to give up. If you're tenacious, you can go and get things done. And we lost the money just because the ringgit had fallen from 250 to 6 plus. It took me about a good whole 10 years to slowly plow back and come back to where we are. But we're stronger than ever before. And the thing is this, all of us are going to fail. The idea is to learn from those failures. Okay, so don't worry about failing. You know, we'll all fail, but try to make your failures less than your successes, you know, and push things along and be a bit more careful. But you are going to have to be tenacious if you're going to survive in the long run as an entrepreneur. Professionalism. In every single thing you do, be professional. Okay, it's going to be very important to be professional. So whatever job you're doing, whatever work you're producing, every piece of work, it has to be professional. You can't sort of just drop, I can't really be bothered about this, and sort of give minimum effort to things. Humility. To me, humility is probably one of the most important aspects to have. Whether you're a CEO of a multinational, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a billionaire, whatever it is, and whoever you are, maybe you may have 5 PhDs and you're educated. I think the best thing we can all just do is be humble. There is no need for people to run around, and because at the end of the day, we're all born, we live life, we die. And I think somewhere in the middle there, it's great if we can just be humble, because then, to me, the reality is none of us are that great. And humility is going to be crucial. Next one will be empathy. There is a need to have empathy for others. Now, when we look at empathy and compassion, these are very important factors to look at. Now, no matter how bad you think things are for you, there are others who are actually going through worse times, and we must actually keep them in mind. Okay, we must keep them in mind when we are looking at how to deal with things. Just 1 second, can I just, yeah, okay. So empathy is another, sorry, one of my colleagues just walked in. Now, empathy and compassion is another thing that we've got to look at. So always be kind, always see how I can help others. What can we do in order to assist others? Now, if you're running a company, whether it's 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 10 people, make sure all the people in your staff understand the company's purpose and its values. Now, for us, we have found this more and more challenging as we've been actually acquiring a lot of schools and other colleges to join the group in the last 1 to 2 years. So expansion. So if we acquire another business, there are 50 staff, 40 staff that come in. Those who have been with us throughout sometimes have a better understanding. And as we expand and we get more and more new employees coming in, new people joining our team, it's sometimes different because they've got different ideas of, values. They've got different type of training. So it's very important to try and get people in to understand the values that your business wants to portray. So list 5 to 6. So this exercise for you is this: when you're free, you can even go back and Google it, go list 5 to 6 values which you want to have for your business. It doesn't have to be this 6. If you go and Google, you'll probably find about 50 values. Now, please try not to have 50 values, because you just want to have a handful, 5 may be good enough, 4, 5, 6, and use that to drive, to be a moral compass for your business and yourself. Now, as a business person, the first thing is looking for problems to solve. So to me, to others, problems are problems, and people complain about the problems. But if you're an entrepreneur, every problem is an opportunity. And the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. So look at disruptive products like, okay, let's say Uber. Uber was actually found when these guys couldn't find a cab. They were looking for a taxi, it was raining heavily, and they were there, and they saw so many cars which were moving by with just one person driving and all the space empty. And they were thinking to themselves, while stuck in that rain, wouldn't it be great if, these guys could all carry passengers? And hence Uber was born. Airbnb was when these guys were trying to rent out their apartment and found, difficult in how to advertise it. And then because they had space, access space, and then figured that, they will probably not be the only ones, and then they created that platform. So if you look at this, okay, Southwest Airlines is a low-cost airlines. Okay, it was the first low-cost airlines that were there. Now, how do you spot opportunities? So whenever you're walking, like for me, every time I'm anywhere, and especially traveling, I look and say, hey, these guys are doing this. We don't have this at home, and that's where a lot of people get sometimes the ideas. They go and see something in another country where it's done differently, and they say, hey, we don't have this at home, and then can we bring this back? But the other thing is also looking at what you are doing and asking yourself what you can do, how you can make that a generation better. Now, so ask yourself, what amongst the things you can do is, how can you improve the quality, speed, price at which value is delivered? Okay, these are three important factors. What can I do that's a generation better? So based on whatever is there now, what can I do that's going to be a generation better? And then how can I improve quality, speed, price? Three things. So if you can improve quality in terms, so for BAC, as far as Brookfield College is concerned, we look at quality. We also look at speed. That's why our tagline is fastest, smartest way. Now, in Veritas, it's another university where we're looking at price, because we're looking at to see how can we actually offer things that it's an online university and trying to make education accessible. So if you look at IKEA is looking at price and quality. If you look at AirAsia, they were looking at price. It's a low cost budget airline. So you want to see, in every case, what can I do? Okay, that's a generation better. So when you're having your shop, even if it's a provision shop, asking yourself, what can I do to make this a generation better? How can I improve the quality, the speed, the price at which value is delivered? What would happen if, for example, my clients, are they older? Are they people who find it difficult to come to the store? Can I get the products delivered to them? I mean, big companies now, like Amazon. But here, as the mom and pop shop, as they would say, in the neighborhood, you're running the provision shop, and your customers are all within a kilometer away. Do you think that if you push delivery to them with a very personal service, you will be able to keep them, even if your prices may be slightly higher, but because of the service you're delivering, because of the speed, they call you and within 20 minutes your guy is out there delivering goods. Now, wouldn't it be great if, and this wouldn't it be great if it's actually something I got from a book, actually out of Australia. Where?
Everybody is messaging saying, can you please stop them? If your heart is on it, but just tell the talker, the attendees that they're addressing the spam issue.
Okay. Just say. In the charges? Yeah. I think there's some spam issue which we will address. I don't know why there's a spam issue, but okay. Now, I'm just going to carry on. Now, if you look at your business model, is it monetizable? Can you make a profit? Is it sustainable? Now, can you create and dominate a brand new market? For example, iPad. The whole idea of the iPad, creating that whole ecosystem with the apps that you can download, the music apps, the other apps today, it's such a great tool for learning and for life. So this is another aspect to look at. Now, great products sell themselves. When you're trying to look at creating a product, nowadays, great products are actually habit-forming products, but I mean, there's pros and cons. So for example, products like, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, your WhatsApp, these are kinds of products that on a daily basis you use. Now, in the old days, a lot of us had the habit of getting up and reading a newspaper in the morning, or before we went to sleep, we make sure we catch up on the news. That's a habit-forming product. So today, you'll find that these products, once they're out, they really don't have to sell or push, because once it's habit-forming, people will want to use these products every day. So I want to ask you, can you think of any problem that needs solving? Something that can be done better? Can you improve the quality, speed, or price at which value is delivered? Okay, so these are the things here. Look at quality, speed, or price at which value is delivered. So in your daily life, say the next 1 week, look around at things you see around you and ask yourself, like, can any of this thing be done better? Now, don't go doing something even if you're not in that field and it's not something that excites you, not something that you can be passionate about. But when you look at something, the best thing for us is to look at things within your own industry. For us, like say, for example, when I first set up the college, I felt there was a shortage of good schools at that time. In the 80s when we were studying here, it was hard to find places which were good. Well, so there was a gap, and I felt that no, I think we can actually deliver a better solution than what is currently in the market, and we started doing that. But now we also started seeing there were problems on the free side, where we're trying to give free education, where students were having access to problems getting access to tuition if they were in rural areas, or students getting problem getting access to tuition if they had no money. So the idea of creating a free tuition platform from standard 1 to form 5, and we have it in 4 languages: Tamil, Mandarin, Malay, and English, for 4 languages. Suddenly has 100,000, 150,000 students using it, because it was just a way of trying to give people access to education. So look for problems. Now follow your passion, but do your homework. If you want to do something, please don't do anything because you think there's money in it. Do something because it's something you think that will bring you joy and happiness. So find something that excites you, that you think you can do. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, okay, now they are serial entrepreneurs, but for those serial entrepreneurs, you know what they enjoy doing? They enjoy, the joy is not what the business is doing, but the joy is in setting up businesses, scaling it up, selling it, and then moving on to the next business. So you can't say, oh, they are experts at, I build a business and then I sell it, and then the joy is in building another business and then selling it, and making a profit each time they do this. That's your serial entrepreneur type person. But for others, your joy may be like, in my case, my joy is in teaching. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy being, I've always enjoyed being in education. And I find that makes me, the idea of helping people, that is what I enjoy. Others may enjoy, you may enjoy music. Others may enjoy, sports, and whatever that you're passionate about, try and see, is there a market for your product or service? Will people actually pay? And if yes, how much will they pay? Will it pay the bills? These are factors to look at. Can you make a profit? Okay, now, please understand that I still believe very much in the traditional business, where you run a business in order to hope that you can make an income, then you pay all your expenses and you have some surplus over there to help you pay, after paying the bills for yourself and the family. You need to, because nowadays in a lot of the new subscription economy businesses, where you can, the companies are worth billions, but they are not turning a profit, but they use the fact of their market capitalization to keep raising more and more money, and then use that to plow and grow the business. It's there, the subscription model. A lot of the companies like the giant companies like Uber, Airbnb, and all, take years before they actually turn a profit. But it's a model that is there, and if you can actually get investor interest, find the venture capital guys to come in, it can work. But if you can't, it will not work. So sometimes the ecosystem in Malaysia, I think in Southeast Asia, Grab is probably in Malaysia the best success of that. Although the profitability is still not there, but the amount they've built in terms of subscribers, drivers, users across the region has made them successful. And many companies want to emulate that. But for every one of these startups, there are like about 10,000 that haven't made it. There are many who don't make it, and they start off and look at it. So to me, try and still see. I'm a traditionalist in that sense. Try and still see if you make a profit, unless of course you're looking at an impact-based business and you're going to fund it from the profits you have. So things like free tuition online and some of these things, you're looking at it from a slightly different angle. Now, timing is everything. Some of y'all are new entrepreneurs. You want to look at going into entrepreneurship. Some of y'all are existing entrepreneurs. Now, see whether the world is ready for your product. I was actually in 1995, 96, I'd actually at that time sold the college, and then, the majority stake in the college, and then gone into IT. And one of the things we wanted to launch, and we launched, was actually a business information, it's a business information system where we are tied up with companies like Bloomberg, Reuters, Dow Jones, Bernama, the New Straits Times, the Star, all of these companies, and to take all that content and dump it onto a platform where people could just come in and search anything. Now, we then went, I think, to Sri Lanka, we went here. These were the days of dial-ups where you would actually link in, the thing will make all sorts of noises, and then you will try to go in. Now, when you look at this kind of an approach, the problem you have is when we went to Sri Lanka, we tried to download a page off the web. I think it took 25 minutes, and we were in a telco, and that's how internet was then. Even in Malaysia, we complained about speeds now. It was really bad. The world wasn't ready. If they had launched anything like Netflix or Amazon Prime or even our local the Grab, then the ecosystem wasn't ready. So you got to ask yourself, is the world ready for your product? Now, if you think your product is something that is going to change the world and is there, you got to ask yourself, do you have the time, energy, and money to be able to educate people and be the first mover in the product? And also, is it the right time to launch your product or business? So this is the question you're going to ask yourself. We are here today. Now there's this COVID, there's all this social distancing, the 1 meter apart. Now, what kind of businesses you want to launch? Now, some person may say, oh, I want to launch a club, I want to launch a bar. If you do, now there may be issues because suddenly you may go back to an MCO. Can your business be delivered online if there are problems? So you got to look at every business you're going to start and ask yourself, is this really the best time to launch? Looking at the current scenario, and can I do something? So this may be the best time to launch an online learning business because online learning may grow. This may be a best time to launch online delivery businesses, like, as you can see, a home business that delivers food to your house, more people, especially during the MCO. So you got to see, if you're a physical restaurant, what can I do to make sure that if there's a second wave, if things get bad, I'm ready to do things. So timing is everything. I learned the hard way. We spent millions of dollars going into creating what was a product that actually we won, awards for, but the ecosystem and the market wasn't ready. So be very careful when you're going to set up a new product. Ask yourself, ask your friends, okay, is the timing right in the current situation? Now, you may think, oh, it's fine, I'll just go and do this. But just think, I'm not stopping people from doing anything. I'm just saying you have to ask yourself. Now, when you're in business, you always have to identify every single player in the field. You have to know everyone who's there. So you have to know your customers, who are going to be your customers, what are your customers' backgrounds, their profiles, their age group, their demographic, their location, their gender, all of these things. So for example, if you're a hair salon mainly for women, then it's women. What kind of price range are you at? So what kind of income background or background will your customers come from? Which location are you trying to target? So if you go and set up a high-rise, salon in an area where people can't afford to, or the background is actually, low-cost flats or whatever, it'd be absolutely silly. So you must know your customers. You have to know your competitors. Who are your competitors? Now, for me, this is one of the key things. I actually like to take the approach that there are no competitors because we shouldn't look at the fact of competitor. I give a simple example. Say us for BAC as a law school. People ask you, okay, who are your competitors? I would rather not look at that because let me ask you a simple question. If I was to ask you who was Coca-Cola's biggest competitor or who was Coca-Cola's competitor, majority of the times when I ask this in a session, people put up and say, Pepsi is their biggest competitor. The answer is no, because it's not, people are not just choosing between Coke and Pepsi, because both of them are actually in what's called the thirst quenching business. They're thirst quenching business. I want to drink, so you take a drink. So technically, Coca-Cola's competitor is everybody else selling drinks. It could be Fanta, it could be FNN, it could be coffee, it could be tea, it could be bubble tea, it could be, all of these different types of drinks are the competitor. Because if a guy is having lunch, he's sitting in a restaurant, and then he's going to order, he may order a Coke, but he might then say, order an orange, or give me a lime juice, or give me this. So this mannerism. So in our case, they would say, oh, competitor, and then they assume that, oh, because it's a law school, the competitor is a law school. I said, no, actually, it's worse for us than companies like Coke. Because when a person is deciding what to study, it's not we are competing with other schools which are offering law. We are competing with everybody else who's offering any other course. Because if a student signed up to do, say, medicine, he's then going to do that for 4 to 5 years. It's not like I drink Coke today and I drink Pepsi tomorrow and I drink bubble tea the next day. Here, for 3 to 4 years, that guy is going elsewhere. So we don't look at it from the point of, you can't say, oh, who are my competitors? And just look at the guy who's teaching, offering the exact same type, the type of courses you are. Your competitors is everybody else you're looking at. Okay, so when you look at your business and you say, oh, competitors, stop thinking. Say, if you're a South Indian banana leaf restaurant, don't think your competitor is the other banana leaf restaurant down the street. Oh, that guy is 10 shops, he's my competitor. If there are other restaurants there, whether they're selling, Chinese food, Western food, Malay type cuisine, whatever it is, Thai food, Japanese food, whatever it is, they're all your competitors. Because the guy deciding where am I going to eat dinner, he's deciding should I have Thai today, or should we have Chinese, or should we have Malay food, or what are we going to eat? So they're all technical, and when he has dinner there, I mean, unlike maybe people like me can have two dinners sometimes, but once he's had dinner there, he's not having dinner in your place on that night. Of course, sometimes people also look at it, I'm going to have Indian food today, and then they're deciding between the Indian restaurants. But generally, people will be switching. Your suppliers, you must know all the suppliers in your field. So if you're buying certain types of goods, you must know who are the people supplying. If you have 5, 6 suppliers in there, you should know who are all the suppliers, who is the most reliable, who has the best quality, who offers the best, speed, best price, all of these factors. And then regulators. You have to know the regulators. So for example, for different industries, there are different regulators. But they're like say for the education, there's the Ministry of Higher Education. For us, for example, there's Ministry of Higher Education, there's MQA. Then when you're getting a place done, there'll be Bomba, there's Perancang, there's all of these, Kesehatan, the health, all of these different regulators are there. You have to know all the regulators that are going to be in your field. And to me, one way of doing this is create a table of all the players in your field and how you're going to deal with them. How are you going to deal with your customers? How are you going to deal with your competitors, so to speak? How are you going to deal? What can we do that differentiates ourselves? What can we do to sell our value proposition? How are you going to look at your suppliers? Okay, and later we look at this in greater detail. Regulators. You have to know everything about how your business works. What are the products you have? Who are the people, the markets, the financials, every single thing. So you have to know, okay, these are the products I have, and these are all the products, and these are the features of my products, these are the benefits of my products. The people in your business, the staff that you have, the employees that you have, your colleagues, everybody you have to know. The market, okay, what market are you operating in? And then very important, the financials. And all of these things I will be going through in the subsequent slides. So you use a functional map to test the knowledge of your business. So even if you did something simple, you could just draw a simple, it could be a mind map, it could be a table, whatever is best for you to write, okay, these are the key things I need to know, the financials. It could be even highlights, customer lifetime value, cost of acquiring customer, your turnover, your revenue, your number of customers, your bottom line, your KPIs could be your EBITDA, your net profit. That'd be one aspect, but I'm talking about even beyond, looking at your cost of goods, your margins on the goods. You need to know everything. If you are the entrepreneur, you need to have a hold and a hand on things to see how things are done. Now, design your new experience. Today, in the old days, we talk about you just take a product and you design. But nowadays, it's all about designing your new experience. I'll give you an example. It's sad now, but Disneyland. If you ever went to Disneyland and you walked in and you spent a day or half a day there in any of the Disneylands, you'd actually find they call it the happiest place on earth, and the experience, end-to-end experience, is simply awesome, because they've really strived and got everybody on board to try and make sure how do we deliver a great experience. Now, companies like Amazon are the same. When they come onto their Amazon platform, they want to make sure customers have a great experience. And the amount of investment on that technology in order to create the experience, they spend, I don't think it's been millions. It's probably over time, over the last 20, 25 years, it's in billions. But it's to design an experience. And you got to see Starbucks, for example, at one point, the CEO took the bold step of closing down all the Starbucks, I think for one day, to redesign the experience because they felt it was becoming stale and the number of customers were going down. So you have to ask and see, how can you redesign your new customer experience? Even now, what can you do? Now, if you've started a business, that's one. If you have not started a business, you can then look and say, okay, I want to do this. And then see, can I do this? And can I make money doing this? In the sense, is it achievable? Because you try and create a fantastic experience, but it costs you $100 to create per person, and then you sell it for $50, you'll be out of business very soon. So people who are existing companies should be asking, how can we make the experience better? Others should be asking, how can I design a customer experience that people want? So if you look at companies like Netflix, for example, you can always see, even hotels, a lot of the hotels are trying to see, how can we make the experience better? Actually, we go to a lot of the top-end hotels in India, you'll find that the customer experience is unbelievable. From the moment you end up at the hotel, you walk in, how they greet you, your welcome drinks, you go up to the room, they've got, things that they've laid out there, chocolates, whatever, cake, fruits, etc. They really make it. You come down to the restaurant, they address you by name, they speak to you. It's unbelievable service. You won't get that anywhere else in the world, but at certain of these hotels in India. But behind the scenes, my God, the staff are pushed and drilled and trained, and it's a very tight environment, but the customer experience is unbelievable. So to me, you have to look at all your customer touch points and make sure that they have a positive experience. So when you're there, look at every single customer touch point, make sure that they have a positive experience. So you draw a customer touch point map, and this customer touch point will look at from the time the guy comes in, he sees a billboard, he sees your website on the billboard, he goes to your website, the tour on the website, all of these factors. Like we are redoing all of ours because we used to be one college, and then we had 4 companies, and now we're up to 31 different entities in the group. And one of the things we are looking at is as more and more entities are created and we are acquiring, they have different types of websites, different type of customer experience. So we are now in the process of rationalizing everything, trying to create one common experience across all the different entities that we have either invested in or acquired. So if you design an emotional, an exceptional customer experience, you will build an emotional connection with your customer. Okay, so like one of the simple things, like in our case, every student has my phone number. They can WhatsApp me and question. Even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and something went wrong, they will send me, and we will try to, I will try my best to see how we can actually sort it. The problem may be a problem to do with the school. It may not be a problem to do with the school. Like, I give an example. Like once one of the students in his housing area in Subang, someone smashed his window and stole his bag. And the thing is this, what he had, it was 1 month before the exam, what he had in the bag were actually books. So there'll be one disappointed robber, or thief. He actually stole the knapsack, but what was in the bag was his books for studying for his law exams. So he just sent to me a WhatsApp. So I just made sure that, no, he got his books, and we sorted this. Just send me the WhatsApp and the report. We straight away helped him out and got that. So at least we can try and give him, some level of help. But there are tons of cases where people would come in, and you need, if you're running a business, to design an experience that will keep your customers happy, an experience that will build an emotional experience, an emotional connection with you. So on the side in green, you'll see design your customer experience, take into account all customer touch points. No, something may be beyond your control. So I give an example. Let's say our campus in KL. Now, we are there in a building, and there are others who are, the car park. Now, in Brickfields area, parking a car can be quite difficult. We used to have certain bays, but we have a problem. So that's something that beyond our control. But our campus in Brickfields, for example, okay, is the most accessible by the train, the monorail, the LRT, the KTM, the buses, everything converges there. So it's a great place. If they wanted to park the car, there are places to park. But it'd be very hard for us to provide, 500 parking bays in that location. So there are things sometimes that may be beyond your control. But those are things you can look at. But the benefit of that location is everything else is for it. And you'll be surprised that students who come in all can find parking within the 2-3 blocks that are there. But we are not providing the parking as part of our ecosystem. But when it comes to our PJ campus, we have 1,000 over bays here. It's not our ecosystem, but they can park there. But the parking is provided by the building, those in the building. So you have to see whatever you have control of, make it the best experience you can actually provide. Now, be the best at what matters most. Find the main reason why people buy from you and then improve on it. Okay, stay focused. Don't try to please everyone. Focus on your car customers. Now, to me, get the basics right. Less is more. Simplify things. Okay. Now, if you look at this, always try to see how can you develop your product? How can you do your packaging better? How can you advertise better? How can you communicate? How can your distribution work? Then look at customer service. Now, doesn't mean if a product can do more and more and more things, it's actually better. You develop processes, develop systems, and see what does the customer care about most. So once in a while, ask them, what do you care about most? Now, in the case of our students, a lot of the time for them is, what keeps them happy is our teachers. We have really good teachers. That keeps them happy. Another thing is all the content, the books, the materials that we give them. That keeps them happy. Another aspect that matters to them is they're looking at the quality of the, all the degrees come from top-end universities, that around the world. We work with a lot of top-end partners around the world. So the fact that, they're carrying that brand, I got a degree from this university or that university. So that actually keeps them happy. So find out why they buy from you, okay? Why they buy from you, and then find out what can you do to make the experience better, you see, and be focused. So it's not about adding 100 features, 1,000 features, 1,000,000 things to it. Find out what matters most to your customers and make that better. So to me, good teachers has been a paramount thing to try and make sure we have the best teachers always. And making sure the teachers have the system, the ecosystem to learn, to improve, to do better, and really look at the welfare of students. Having that content, the books, the materials, to make sure that's written for everything. We have about 600 books within our publications division that have been produced by our teachers. So to have that in place, and then to see how we create a holistic type environment. So there's lots of things that people can do, but try to find why are they buying from me and how can I improve it, that area, how can I make it better? So if you're running a provision shop and you got customers coming to your small, provision shop in Bangsa or Tamanton or whatever it is, why do they come and buy? Sometimes I ask them, okay, uncle, why do you come to my shop? Why do you come here to buy things? Just want to know, and what do you think we can do better? And what's important to you? It does pay sometimes to talk to your customers because they are the ones paying your bills ultimately. Ask them why. And if you talk to a few customers, you will then see, okay, these are things that this is what they care about. I buy because it's like us. I have suppliers. I have supplier A, supplier B, supplier C. I sometimes buy from supplier A. Why? Because he's the one who actually is prepared to deliver always on time. The quality is good. If I say I need this product by this Saturday, we need this 10 books printed on this day. We know if he says, I'll deliver to you on Saturday, it will be there. We know his quality is good, and we know, his pricing is good. So when we look at these factors and we buy from them, the next time we need to make an order, we'll go back to them. So that's why you got to always know, why are people buying from you? Sometimes my suppliers ask, why are you buying from me? And I'll tell them, okay, because your quality is great. We've tried other guys, they're not as good. You always deliver on time, and your pricing is very competitive. So it's these factors, and that's why we buy from you. And you're a nice guy, So all of these factors have to look at. So be the best at what matters most. Now, market your business. No matter what business you build, no matter how big it is or whatever that you build, you may spend $10 million, $100 million, $1 billion creating something. At the end of the day, if nobody knows about it, you will have no customers. So a crucial element here is to try and see how are you going to market your business, and what is your value proposition? What do you offer? So for example, if you look at Netflix, what's the value proposition? Well, the value proposition is now offering you the ability to pay a certain figure and have access to so many different types of movies at a time you want to watch. So you can watch on demand, tons and tons of movies. And same thing with Prime, and Astro has now got also video on demand. And if you look at, for example, like iTunes or Spotify, what's the value proposition? Now, in the old days, we would buy one, the very old days, they had these records, which are the big vinyl ones. Many youngsters may not have actually seen the big black type record, which was there. Nowadays, they have some fancy players, more for it's more arty than anything else, artsy than anything else. Then you have cartridges, which is the big cartridge. Then you had cassettes, which were small. Then you had CDs. Then you had MP3 players. But the huge value proposition about iTunes and Spotify was all of a sudden you had tons and tons of music, millions of songs, and you pay one figure and you can listen to anything that you like at any time. And the cost of it is then spread among millions of users. Or you could be 200 million users, 500 million users using that, and then the revenue gets plowed back to all those who supplied the music. So if you look at that, you must see what's your value proposition, what are you selling? So for us, for BAC, for example, what we were selling a lot of the time is we were selling high quality degrees with good teachers, and basically a degree that at the end of the day will help them secure their job, secure employment, and guide them and be with them throughout their lives as they move and further improve, and move on in next stages of life. So the value proposition for them was the ability to get a foreign degree at a very reasonable price. And for them, that was a key element, and the education that goes with it. So you must understand your competitive advantage, your business. How are you different? So if you're marketing a business, how are you different? Now, not everybody is going to create a Netflix, an Uber, the next Microsoft or the next Google, for that matter. But even if you're offering home delivery, and say you're in a housing estate where there are 1,000 houses, and you're doing lunch delivery, and you're trying to address, and maybe many of them have actually an elderly person in the house, or someone in the house, or they don't have, and you want to just sell lunch to 200 people there in that house, and you want to, cater this every day, you got to see how are you different in terms of the food you offer. So, for example, let's say, are you offering food that is halal, for example, or are you catering food that's for the vegetarian or vegan market? Or are you offering healthy food? So how are you different? What is your value proposition? And when you understand it, then you can actually, it's easier for you. And you must have a customer acquisition strategy. How are you going to get the customer? And one of the key things is this: the moment you get your customer, you got to look after that customer. See, that if you do well by your customer and do good by your customer and provide good service, he will be with you for the rest of his life. I mean, assuming, as long as he's there. I mean, you may move, and you may not see him anymore, but generally, the customer lifetime value is how long you keep a customer. The longer you keep the customer, the better it is for a business. So you must see, it's how customer acquisition, and then later it's your customer retention. How do I retain the customer? And that's by service. Now, also look at marketing your business, look at the marketing channels, what works for you. So if you're looking at marketing channels, okay, for example, you may say, okay, I run a small business. I look at social media type marketing, Instagram, Facebook, now TikTok, whatever it is, or the traditional newspapers, the New Straits Times, the Star, Berita Harian, etc. Then your television, like Astro, the channels on Astro, the various channels, or RTM, TV3, whatever. Then you look at radio, for example. Will radio work? You have got to actually look and see where you are, and also what will work for the market that you're going after. So if, for example, you're running a restaurant, and that restaurant is in, there's let's say there are about 10,000 people around that restaurant of yours who are in that area. So, for example, like Taman Tun Dr. Ismail or Bangsa, or there's a group. Then you want to focus your efforts there, though in some of these cases, there will be customers who come from outside. So you want to the first thing is you want to target those within your area who probably, if your food is not, it's the kind of food that people can afford on a daily basis, you want to target that area and see whether you can get 100, 200 people to come into your restaurant every night. Then you want to look and see how can I target or get onto some places to be listed on those food type sites, food blogs, etc. When you're looking for best Chinese restaurant in Taman Tun, or best Chinese restaurant in in this place, whatever it is, that you're there. So look at your marketing channels. Then when you see how much you want to spend, you have to have something like, I will not spend more than, say, 5% of my revenue or 10%. It all depends. If you're trying to set up a business like the next, high-end thing, to go for a subscription type like your IBM, they will spend sometimes 20, 30% for it on just marketing, because for them it's very much a customer acquisition game. It's a subscription, economy type situation where you want to get as many. But if you're running a restaurant, you may want to actually use your clients more, get people to come in, have a loyalty program, become a member, and then you get 10% off your meals or 5% off your meals. You want to try and see, can you bring friends in? Sometimes you try promotion like, free dessert, all sorts of things. Sometimes it's just, a simple thing. Guy comes and then he does, they bring 10 people eating, just going and giving them some fruits, whatever, mangoes, papaya, just complimentary on the house. It goes a long way. So, but marketing channels, look and see all the marketing channels. Don't go crazy, because some people just suddenly just start spending. See what works for you, and what works for you. Look at how much you're making, where what kind of customer base, where are they coming from, how do you reach them. And a lot of it is nowadays marketing. A lot of it is like for people like all the new social media sites, is most growth hacking. That means from within, They have 100 customers or people using it, and they hope they'll bring their friends, and then they keep growing from within. So companies like Facebook have like up to, I think, probably about 25 to 30 people in a growth hacking department, which is a new way of doing marketing. I mean, new meaning quite a few years by now, but more recent than other methods. Now, place, look and see where it's there. Growth strategies. How, sometimes marketing a business could be worked by alliances, geographical mergers. So you have got a user base of 100,000 people, somebody else has a user base of 200,000 people, you form an alliance and suddenly you have 300,000 people you can reach. So these are kind of the things. Growth, so one you can grow by alliances, another one you can grow geographically. So one of the key things for us that's very important is always looking at how to collaborate and how to move forward. So please, no matter what business you set up a restaurant, don't think we build it and they will come. It doesn't work that way. Okay, you build it. If nobody knows about it, nobody comes. Now, if you build it and they come and you give the customers, the first 10 customers, an absolutely fantastic experience, they will go and tell their friends. And then they'll go and tell some other friends, and those friends come, and then slowly. But you need to make sure people know your value proposition, what makes you different, why they should come do business with you, why they should buy from you. And you should consciously, as a homework here, I put here, prepare a simple marketing plan. Okay, what are your objectives? What channels will you use? Actually, marketing is another whole 2-3 hour separate thing I have on marketing 101. But do understand that the importance of that. Now, these days, leadership. During the COVID-19 and all these kind of trying times, the most important thing to me nowadays, I would say, is you need strong leadership. In times like COVID, leaders have to learn how to keep calm, and they need to inspire and empower their staff, not scare them into, my God, we're all going to close down, we are not going to do this, and show them that you yourself don't know what to do. The idea is be authentic, be open, give direction from the top, be honest with your guys, think short term and long term. Sometimes now short term is survival, So I've been trying to push to a lot of employers not to retrench staff, not to cut, unless they absolutely have to. If the business is in the red and you don't have a choice, okay, then you need to do it for the long-term survival. But if a company is making profit, say you're making 10 million profit, and this year because of COVID you will make 8 million profit, I think those in leadership and the shareholders should just look at it and say, no, these are our staff, these are our team, okay, they've been there for us, we have to be there for them now, and just make less profit. You can always come back later. As long as you're not like 50 million, like 10 million losses, you're in the red, you can't pay your bills, then I understand. And even in those kind of cases, later I'm going to see what some of these businesses can do. So to me, as a leader, unfortunately, in these times, you have to make tough decisions. You have to make decisions sometimes with limited information. You don't know whether what you're going to do may be the best, but get your mentors help. Find mentors who can advise you. Talk to your other colleagues, those working with you, and then sit down and try to make those decisions. Also, for leadership, if you're a big company, you got to pick your champions, because you know why? No company can be led by one leader. That one leader can provide direction, he can provide, he can try to empower his people, he can inspire, he's there. But you can't shoulder all the weight on any one person. So you need to pick your champions. So we have about 400 people within the group. I have about 30, what I would call champions within the group. And these are people who are at all different levels, but these are people we need in order to get our things done. So while we give them some direction, so set up a task force also. I mean, this thing is during this whole COVID thing, set up a task force with backups, because there's this whole group A, group B, person A, person B, succession plans. So you must ask yourself now, how are you going to improve the areas of leadership and strategy? For me, my job here is basically strategy and leadership in this company. I honestly don't do a lot of the day-to-day work. It's my my friends, my colleagues, my teammates here who actually do a lot of the stuff. I look at direction, I look at what we're going to do next, I look at what we're going to do, and I got a great team that actually goes out and does all these things to implement it. Of course, I'm really busy sometimes because a lot of things we do are new, and therefore I've got to be there with the team to get things done. But I've got the joy and benefit of working with a remarkable group of people, without which BSE won't be where it is today. But the main thing is somebody needs to provide that direction, that where we're going to go and that strategy. And you need to practice, open, authentic leadership. You need to realize that you need to provide direction, but you also need to, we all need to realize how we're going to improve our ability. Now, this is something I actually read in a book, which was, I didn't come up with this, but I read in a book where this guy was actually looking at companies and identifying one of the successful features is practice inside outside leadership. Now, what do you mean by inside outside leadership? You see, generally, you need one inside facing leader, and the inside facing leader is focusing on what's happening in the office. The inside leader is actually looking at what's focusing in the office at where you are, and that's his job. And the outside facing leader is focusing and looking at things which are, with the world. So for example, if you look at companies like Apple, you have Steve Jobs outside. He was always outside. He was always engaging with the public, doing his presentations. If you look at Asia, you have Tony Fernandez, who was always the outside-facing person, but there are others who are looking at things within. So in my case, you need both of this. If one person tried to do this, he won't have the time. You can't be outside-facing, looking and dealing with the world outside, letting them know, etc., what you're doing, etc., and also trying to manage the whole operations and everything inside. So for us in BAC, I have my CEO, okay. They manage the day-to-day. So for Brookfield College, the CEO manages the day-to-day to make sure all the things. My CEO is Muradi, and Kandasamy, my CEO is actually my brother. They manage on a broad things like HR, finance, and the operations. And then, of course, we have finance department, we have HR, all the legal, all of these guys are there. But one side looks more at the inside, the internal, and on the other side, people like me, I'm outside facing. In the sense, I go out, give talks like this, look at networks, get new parties on board, normally have the first discussion, and then look at things. So you must also see, some people are great at outside facing, some people are better at inside facing. I'm not a great manager of detail and looking at these things, so I know that's why it's best to have those who are better at it to handle that type of work. So ask yourself in your company, who is best to be the person outside? You see, when you go to a restaurant sometimes, you'll have somebody cooking in the back, there might be the wife cooking or whatever it is, or the husband may be a great cook and he's cooking. And then the other person is outside walking and talking to, hello, how's the food? Can I help you? Can I get? There's an inside-outside facing, because one person is making sure everything is running in the operations and the other person is out there networking, going parties, trying to get people in. You need both these roles to be filled, okay? Now, the right people in the right positions. As I told you, no one can build any company on his own. And the key thing you got to do is build your core team of champions. If you want to have a great company, you have to have great people, okay? And for me, very key is this: put the right people in the right positions. Whenever a person comes in to try and teach something in our case and say, I want to apply to teach, my first question to them is, what's your favorite subject? What did you do well when you were a student? Which subject do you like the most? Now, often they will, I don't tell them, oh, can you teach this subject, that subject? Because they will then say, yes, I can. So I want to know instead what actually excites them, what actually they'll be happy doing for the next 10 years, 20 years of their life. Now, so you have to ask yourself, okay, when you ask this question, it's because you want them to do something that they would be excited about, okay? You need a strong core team. So have you built a strong core team? Are there any gaps, okay, in your team? Now, I like flat organization structures, not like hierarchies with 20 different levels. The idea should be the structure should be flat. When you're hiring today, hire for competence, that they can do the work, and character. Character and attitude are hugely important. We have sometimes found that you hire someone who's got, great qualifications, but on a character point, he's not a fit for the organization. People have to be a fit for the organization. Also play to their strengths. Some people are great at, writing documents, at research, whatever. Others are great at going and doing things. Find what your staff are good at, what keeps them happy, okay? And then let them come in to do that, okay? Now, also look at it's very important nowadays for company fit. You see, this is one of the key problems. When you're trying to hire people, these have been challenging times. Every day I get numerous WhatsApps from people saying, I've lost my job, my wife has lost a job, my kid has lost a job. So a question now is, how do we deal with this. So we got to hold, we've got to, when a person comes in the early days, we often hire people because we want to help them. But sometimes trying to hire a person to help them will not help your company or your colleagues or your business or anybody if it's not a fit with your culture. Okay, so try to hold on also to try and make sure when you hire for character, hire for company fit, and hire people who you think will get along with everybody else there, and hire people who will buy into your purpose. Okay, who will buy into your purpose. Now, nowadays it's also, and if you've got good people, hold on to them. Hold on to your good people and succession plan. Nowadays it's very important to need to make sure you have a succession plan. Now, no company today can ignore this remote working because we never know at any time there could be another MCO, another, all of us, all companies closed and having to operate online. Okay, we moved online actually our entire operations within 48 hours. We managed to put all the BAC students, I think within 4,500 students, we actually had the online platform. We got everybody, and within a week, we started teaching everybody and running classes online. But now there's a sense of complacency. Everybody will be like, okay, now we are back and everything is going to go back to normal. So now we're running our classes in a hybrid mode, which means you can come to class or you can study online. It's up to the student. So it's a hybrid mode type approach. Now the question is that anytime it comes in, we can switch online immediately. So you must look at your own business. If you're running a restaurant, okay, if this happens again, am I now ready to do deliveries? Am I now ready to find a different way so that if anything happens or anything goes wrong, everybody can work online? Okay, so we had our servers, we had our structures and everything in place. So we all could work online quite easily. It was seamless, but create all your procedures for this. Now, always work like a startup. Always work like a startup, which means flat structure, minimize bureaucracy, small teams, make quick decisions, focus on goals, meet deadlines, be creative. These are key important things to look at, okay? Always work like a startup. Now, functions, these are functions that we have within the organization. Put a table of functions in your business. Okay, create a table of functions in your business. Now notice that the part in green, almost all the slides have it. That is something for you to go and work on further. Okay, now, if you look at this, operations. There are 4 things to look at operations. Break down your organization's key functions and processes. So in other words, what do we do? Okay, what do we do? And list out, okay, this is something, for example, at college, okay, we do student, we have the recruiting of students, we have the onboarding of students, we have the issuance of student cards, we have the issuance of offer letters. So you want to see what we do, okay? And then you also want to see who is doing it. So for example, okay, this is done by finance, or this is done by admissions office, or this is done, okay? And also maybe if you want to put the person, if the smaller business, you can put the person, but who is doing it, okay? And then how are they doing it? Now this how is a crucial element because when you look at how, what technologies are you using? Okay, what technologies are you using? For example, like us, on our learning platform, we have a platform called New, that's for the LMS. We have Articulate for notes writing. We have, for example, Zoom, which we're using now for course delivery. We have what you call Prezi for videos. Now, then we have we have access to things like LinkedIn Learning for video content. Okay, we now have Coursera for extra content from universities. So when you actually look, we have Dynamics for finance. We have Deskera for HR. We have that, we have 100 over tools from Adobe, from Microsoft for the entire Office suite of products. We have things like Google Analytics. We have things like HubSpot. All are doing different things. So with what are we using in order to get these things done? Another thing is where do we have to do it in the office, or can it all be done remotely? So if you look at things like SaaS, your software as a service, between SaaS, softwares, and so on, we have more than 100 different technology tools that are running in the background. So you want to see what is being done, who is doing it, how are we doing it, where we are doing it. Do a nice table, and once you have this table, you can actually just sit down and have all your contingency plans. How can you work on physically? How can you work remotely? And especially those of you who are looking at setting up businesses now, try to see how can you go lean without having to get big premises and, things that you can do. Now, supply chain. One of the key problems during even the COVID and the MCO was, supply chains. Can you get your supplies? Are they reliable, sources? So list all your current suppliers. So in our case, we make a list. Okay, this person does printing. This person is our cleaning company. This is our security company. This is our, guys who supply our stationery. List all your current suppliers, and then talk to your suppliers about ability to deliver. For example, suddenly they may not be able to get workers, or suddenly talk to them. They may not be able to get supplies to deliver what, and then identify backup suppliers. Okay, if the supplier A or he has a problem, we have supplier B and C. What happens if his business supplier A gets into trouble and he closes down? You cannot be left, your supply chain cannot be affected. So confirm your inventory levels, manage your stock levels, have an early warning system. The moment something goes wrong and looks like your supply is affected, you have a problem. I give an example. Let's say you are running a restaurant, and your restaurant is just serve seafood, crabs, prawns, whatever. And all of a sudden, you can't get the seafood. You'd have problems. So you need to make sure you always have backups. You always have to make sure you talk to your suppliers. You have to look at your supply chain. You have to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. Because in normal times, things are fine. But when you get into, times like now where the whole world is going through a pandemic, you then have to try and make sure that your supply chain at no point gets affected. So your homework is this: have you considered and planned for all supply chain issues and risk? Do you have something in place for that? Now, the next one, list all digital tools for the various divisions. Now, as I told you, we use about 100 technology tools. And sometimes when you have 30 companies in a group and some of which you're bought, they are using different tools because they're using the tool they're using. So even within the same company with different divisions, and sometimes these things don't talk to each other, and you need to see how you can develop APIs, bring things together. So for me, an important element is going to be to see how, list all the digital tools you have, list what each of these tools is costing you, look at what are the licensing type provisions for this, list and see how you can actually set up. So we have dashboards for various things, but the question is, how can we set up a dashboard? What are the most important things for these tools for which departments? And how can dashboards be set up? And how you as the key person will be able to get these dashboards and be able to see things. Now, sometimes we've got tons of stuff, HR, finance, each department looks. There are certain things I would say I want to know, and then they will just give me that information. Okay, so to me, the thing, your homework is there. List all digital tools used or which can be used to improve performance for the various divisions, functions, and processes. Now, when we look at this, what I want to explain to you all is, this whole exercise today, there are about 30-hour slides. We're now on 19. It covers every different aspect. But actually, each of this, technology and how to use technology to improve your business, is a 3-hour talk. I have a talk on marketing 101, which is a 3-hour talk. A branding 101 on how to brand your business is a 3-hour talk. But today's one is I just want to give you, because many of you all have gone through these 2-hour sessions with trainers and teachers. And I mean, some of you all, I think about 70 of you all are in that group. And some of you all today we've got members from outside who have just come in to join us as well. I've given you all a little bit of homework there. So when you go back and then say, okay, go back to your office and tell them, okay, what are all the digital tools you're using? What does each of these tools cost us? Are there other tools which may be better than what we're currently using? Are these tools all compatible with each other? Because these are things we ourselves are doing. Now, another aspect of business is this: know your numbers. You have to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you won't stay in business long because you have no idea whether you're doing well or not. Focus on profits. Now, when I say this, actually, I say this because we're looking at the number part. To me, it's 3 things, the 3 Ps. Focus firstly on your people, the ones who are your customers and the ones who work with you. These 2, your employees, your colleagues. Okay, the first one is the 3 Ps is first focus on your people, those who work with you, okay, and those you're, in a sense, working for, your customers. Secondly, you also focus on the planet. Now, to me, the planet means the bigger thing of what are we going to do? I'm just talking about not just environmental, but other things we can do to create positive impact for the planet. That's your second P, your planet. And the third P is your profits. Because if you don't make a profit, then you won't be able to serve the other 2, the planet or the people, because you'll be too busy trying to stay afloat. So profit is very simple. Build revenue, reduce expenses. Okay, I have a build revenue, reduce expenses. That's it. So if you can have higher revenue and reduce expenses, then it's fine. But reducing expenses shouldn't be reducing expenses which affects quality of your product or the experience of your product. Then you start losing your customers. Now, develop cost leadership. One of the workshops I have is a cost leadership workshop. It's about an hour and a half, which actually, cost leadership is not about, selling or using low quality products. Cost leadership is about learning how to produce the quality of your product at a lesser cost. Okay, so learning things like what are strategies you can put in to say it costs you say everybody else in the industry, it costs them $10 to produce this, but you can produce the same thing at $5. And because if you can do that, then you can decide whether you want to be a low cost type provider, which passes that saving on to your customer, or you want to be a premium product, and because you can produce that same product that others can do at 50% of the cost, you can still pay a premium and make a bigger profit. Okay, so they're cost leadership strategies. Now get your pricing strategy right. One of the key things is this: pricing your product right is very important, because let's say people, and that depends actually, pricing, there are different types of pricing strategies. One is cost plus, what it costs me, then I add something to it. Another pricing is you price based on the perceived value, what people are prepared to pay for it. Now, so let's say, for example, say you take a Netflix subscription, okay, and you price it at 50 ringgit, but people are actually prepared to pay 80 ringgit. Then you have left $30, 30 ringgit on the table. So Netflix will be looking and saying, okay, we are going to charge this subscription. Now they've got to really go and think through their subscription. They would have done their own marketing research, they would have done their own structure to see, okay, we charge at 50 ringgit, we make $15 margin per customer. But if customers are prepared to pay 80 ringgit, okay, you could be making 45 ringgit per customer. So this is a key element to look at. And a lot of people get their pricing strategy wrong. One of the things when we do a lot of training for single moms from the B40 category, say they might be selling goreng pisang or muruku or whatever. Now for them, or curry powder for that matter. And for them, sometimes the question is the pricing. They don't look at this. They think if I sell cheaper, I will get more customers and I can sell more. But let's say their cost of production, say, is 10 ringgit, and the whole cost of making it is like 9 ringgit. They make $1. Now, if they suddenly say, okay, I lower the price 10%, I make it 9 ringgit, then they're doing all that work to make nothing. So it's sometimes better to differentiate your product, say that this is homemade curry powder, or, and the quality is there. Give them some recipes that they can try with that curry powder, whatever, so that you can charge a higher amount. So you have to get your pricing strategy right. And we found this sometimes, in the school, we sold a course at a particular price, and then we find that we've already undersold this course. And if we added a little bit, it might suddenly it might affect the bottom line by 2 million. If we price it, the 2 million, just because say there are 1,000 students doing a course, if it's 2,000 ringgit, a fee approach, that pricing will have a 2 million ringgit impact on the bottom line. So very important is, and people don't spend enough time on this. Now, to me, avoid discounting. One of the biggest killers of a business is discounting. So for us, if you're a discount-based institution, fine. I think that's the nature of your business. You're a low-cost, a discounting type business. But if you're not, discounting can actually kill your business. Because I give an example. Say you're making 10 million ringgit, okay, and your customers are paying you, and your margin, okay, for a customer who pays 20,000 ringgit, you make 5,000 ringgit. Let's say. So that means you got a 25% margin. For a customer who pays 20,000 ringgit, you make 5,000 ringgit. That's the actual contribution to the profit. You're making a 25% margin. Now, that is fine. Next thing, you decide to now say, okay, instead of 20,000, I'll charge 10,000 ringgit. You charge 10,000 ringgit. Now what happens? You're charging below your point. Now, does that mean by charging 10,000 ringgit, unless you're going to get double or triple the customers, and unless it's going to lower down, by increasing contribution to fixed costs, etc., you're putting yourself in huge trouble. So to me, every dollar you discount is $1 going off your bottom line. So if you are selling a product for 10 ringgit, okay, and your cost is 8 ringgit, so you make a margin of 2. If you now sell it for 9 ringgit, you have lost $1. And you are using that $1, your profits will go down by 50%. Okay, now you might think, oh, what if I get more customers? But unless you're going to get, if you now have 1,000 customers, unless you're now going to get 2,000 customers, you're going to go down. And you're going to get 2,000 customers to make exactly the same amount of money you made when you had 1,000 customers. So for my thing is, don't discount. When you discount, instead try to provide value, better value, additional things that don't cost you as much, okay? And don't, if you jump into the discounting and then you go into price wars with people, you end up at the end of the day, the losers are all the businesses. And then at the end of the day, the losers will be the customers, because when you start discounting, the value and the product, the quality of product will go down. And when that goes down, your customers will suffer, and then your business will suffer. So for me, I always say, when you're charging a price, justify the value of it. Deliver more than what you have actually, promised at that value. Add extra things for your customer, but don't discount, because when you start discounting, one, it's not fair. Some customers get a discount, others don't. And if you discount throughout, it will not be fair, because your company may actually have huge problems. So unless you can increase your population by 100%, 200%, and then reduce the costs because of the increased customers. But bear in mind, more customers means hiring more people to service those additional customers. Now, customer lifetime value is always work out what's your customer lifetime value. If somebody comes and eats at your restaurant, normally a customer eats at a restaurant. How many years is it there for? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? How many times does he come and visit your restaurant? How much does he spend, the average customer, each time he visits your restaurant? All of these factors have to be looked at. Okay. Another thing is to reduce how you can reduce tax. Okay. Now, no, this is tax planning, because if you're very profitable, you'll be paying tax. But look and see what incentives are there. For example, like now there are lots of incentives for, sometimes there'll be double taxation for certain things. There'll be, tax benefits for, say, investments in certain type of technology. Find what things are there. If you hire special needs, there's double tax deduction for hiring special needs staff. These are kind of things. So look at it and plan, get that advice for tax, and then look. Building funding capability is just the ability when you want to expand, you want to acquire buildings or property, you must have that ability. So here, list and monitor the main KPIs. This is your homework: numerical and financial, number of customers you have, what is the price you're charging a customer, what's the customer lifetime value, what is the margin on customers, what are the expenses, and study this. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you don't know your numbers, you're asking for trouble. Now, these were things which I put in for during the COVID times, that all businesses want to ask yourself, can you survive? This was I did a talk in April, and I took these 2 slides out of that. Can you survive till the end of the year and beyond? Because survival is the key element. Okay. Then look at conserving your cash. So whatever cash you have, try and conserve it, and then plan. You may want to look at only initiatives which are quickly implemented because of COVID, like taking all your business online, offering. You may need to look at that if you think you can get back the money. But huge investments you may want to look at. Collect your receivables. Some people have actually millions of dollars owing to them, and while they're trying to figure out, so then they notice, see, how can you collect what is owed to you? How can you collect? What steps can you take? Government initiatives. There were various government initiatives under Panjana. There are things for subsidies, for loans. There was, I think, the 6 months moratorium. Look and see what government initiatives you can use to cover lost revenue or support cash flow. For example, the 6 months moratorium was useful for many businesses. But that idea was to give you some breathing space so you prepare for after that 6 months. And I'm really worried when the 6 months end, we don't want businesses to go into a downward spiral because they haven't prepared. Expense reduction expenses. What expenses can be cut without affecting quality or livelihood? Notice I say without quality or livelihood. If you cut expenses that affects the quality of your product, not good. And if you cut expenses to me that affect livelihood, not good. Because you know why? We need to keep people in jobs. If you start retrenching staff, VSS, MSS, all those kind of things, and take people out, if you're still profitable and you can still survive, then I think, we're just asking for trouble. Because if people can't spend, if they don't have an income, they can't spend. If they can't spend, others will suffer. The retailers will suffer. All businesses will suffer, and the economy will never pick up. We all need to pull together and do what we can to keep things going. So, except for companies that are hugely in trouble, you're in the red and you cannot, try and find ways to keep your staff. And also, this is by way of reinventing. I give an example. One of the things you want to try and tell employees is this. In the old days, every company has the following. You've got your finance department, your HR department, your marketing department, your sales department, your legal department, and more. I mean, there are various other departments that you have, your governance, corporate quality. So there are about 10 different types. Remember earlier I showed you a list of functions about 18, 19. But now moving ahead, there are new jobs that have come in. So now I would say every company will need a digital marketing person. Every company will need a social media marketing person. Look at all the social media pages, all the things that are out there. Companies should have a data analyst, someone who can actually look at the numbers, your sales data, your marketing data, your conversion data, your finance data, your cost data, all of these kind of numbers to generate and to talk to the board, to talk to the leadership to say, okay, this is what we can do. Here we can actually save some money here. What we notice is our conversion rate for people who come in leads is only 5%. What can we do to make it 10%, 15%? You know, the web developers, graphic designers, and more. We have all of these people within BAC because we have our advertising arm, we have our IT company app, and they do a lot of this work in-house. But every company should now be looking to see how can we add the 6-7 people. So one way is reskill and upskill your current staff. So if you have a staff member who can't move them. Like for us, during COVID, the library was shut. So when the library was shut for 2 months or whatever, because we couldn't open, I told all the librarians they should now be looking at to see how they can become digital librarians. Although we had a digital library, but people come to ask for book. You're there online to tell them, well, this is how you use the digital library. This is what you do. So we then expanded our content by getting a lot more sources, running out to get all the books in the library to find digital copies or versions of the book. But now the idea is to reskill, upskill our library team to be able to work in a fully digital environment and to complement the physical library. So it's now the library is hybrid mode. Now we've always had a digital library earlier, but what we've done now is the content for the digital library has been increased by more than doubled or tripled in the last 3 to 6 months. So we have a lot more things that are there, and we've had to retrain the staff. So don't let people go. Find how you can actually, there will be some cases where it's going to be very difficult, but find ways how to reskill them. And that's why with Project Deep, that's what we're doing. We're trying to train 10,000 people for all these digital type jobs, some of whom we will hire, some of whom we're hoping other companies will take. And by giving these people skill sets within a quick 1 month to 2 months on a funding basis. So, and even if they want to join their own, set up their own business or do things on their own, the idea is it's there. But we need to work together to solve this. Now, budget and cash flow, financial risk. Look at what financial risk for your business. What are the financial risks and plan so that you won't have any surprises. Look at the tax implications currently, your corporate tax, your SST, your transfer price, look at all. Bank loans. In certain cases, you may now have to go back to, at least interest rates have gone down. You may now have to go back to sit down and look and see how can I actually renegotiate your loan. So for example, let's say you have a lot of equity in your thing, maybe restructure your loan. So maybe you think the next 2 years will be tough. Go talk to your bankers, see how you can negotiate, restructure, so maybe you at least have 2 years where your payments are not as much as before and you can survive. But don't wait until the bank sends you letters for not paying and the bank is going to court and all of these structures. Do things early. Okay? The best thing is actually just turn around your business and make enough revenue, look at your expenses, cut that down, and then be happy. But it's not easy in all cases. So go talk to the banks, negotiate, restructure. Manage your inventory. Sometimes you have tons of, you'll be surprised sometimes, even in our case, I'm telling you, we have tons of inventory and stock. So find ways to clear stock because your stock can be converted to cash. Move your stock out, move the stock faster, you get back your money. Now, look at working capital, how to look at regulatory matters. Look at all the regulatory matters within your sphere currently, labor, the laws. For example, you can't just simply be moving out staff because there will be employment law issues and labor issues and industrial court issues. Look at tax, the various types of tax, health and safety regulations, instructions. All of these things you have to look at. And always think short-term and long-term. You've got to think short-term now because of COVID. Many of us are trying to think like, okay, next 3 months, 6 months, what are you going to do? And then at the same time, you've got to put your long-term hat on and think, next 3 years, 5 years, what's going to happen? Now, understand that, okay, all these things on funding are there for you to look at. Now, for me, other than the purpose, values, for me, because I look at things differently, the biggest lesson today is this thing, stay relevant. The biggest problem everyone is facing today, whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, whether you're a country, is how are we going to stay relevant? I was very worried over time, like Malaysia as a country, like how do we stay relevant? How does a business stay relevant? And bear in mind, it's not just individuals, companies. Look at what happened to Nokia, to Kodak, to Blockbuster, all giants, the biggest in their industry at one point, okay, in their respective industries, and then problems. Whether it's out of, we can say in hindsight, whether it's complacency, whether they didn't feel. But when you're doing well, there's always this thing like, oh, I'm doing well, so fine. Okay. Now, the reality is this: every company is afraid. So Alibaba, for example, what's their motto? To have a company that lasts 100 years. Because now the lifespans of companies are so much shorter. So what they said is, we want to be around for 100 years. If we can be around for 100 years, that's success, and to do what they want to do, okay, according to their purpose and their mission. But they want to be around 100 years. Facebook acquired Instagram. Facebook acquired WhatsApp, okay? Now they wanted to buy a Snapchat. Why? Because they all know before they were there were things like Napster and Friendster. Napster was the music one. Friendster, MySpace, and then Facebook came in and then took over. But they know there are others out there who will come in and who will also affect their dominance. That's why if there's anyone that the company comes out, they will acquire Instagram, buy WhatsApp, because let's see how we can have this platform. If you look at Microsoft, earlier they acquired Hotmail, which is now Outlook, okay? They're also looking at now acquiring, I think in TikTok in the US is one of the things that they have been having discussions. Every company, Apple, for example, every company, no matter who you are, no matter how big you are, you're in a battle for relevance. Because everyone knows nobody is going to be there forever and you're going to fight. Now for you all as businesses, you are also in a battle for relevance, okay? Because things are changing quicker than ever before. Like Darwin, I like a statement that's often attributed to Darwin. It is not the strongest nor the most intelligent of species that will survive, but the one most adaptable to change, okay? The one that will survive is the one most adaptable to change, not the strongest nor the most intelligent. So you need to be able to change to stay relevant. When COVID comes in and changes things, change was coming, change is always there. Change is the only constant, as they say. But the speed of change has been affected by COVID, has made things even more quick. So you got to ask yourself, how are we going to deal with this problem of staying relevant? Now, even you're a football player, you retire, how do you stay relevant? Beckham is one of the few examples of a football player earn more after retirement than before. But 99.9% of football players don't. So they start saying, okay, maybe I become a coach, maybe I become a manager, maybe I do something. But it's difficult. And all of us have that problem. In our case here, so I tell our guys, operate like a startup. Because while we may be doing well today, we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know what disruption comes in. We don't know what's going to happen. So we have to really work hard. And the way to stay relevant to me is to keep learning. Gandhi has said it best, I think, when he said, live as though you'll die tomorrow, learn as if you'll live forever. So the idea is to keep learning. And this is not there amongst most people. Charles Tremendous Jones has a nice statement where he talks about the person you are today and 5 years from now depends on two things: the people you meet and the books you read. Okay, so there are two things here: the people you meet and the books you read. So try and meet people who know things. Try and learn, have mentors, have networks. You learn from your colleagues, you learn from your people around you, you learn from your customers, you learn from watching videos, I mean, like attending webinars like this, other things. You try and learn, and you keep learning, because learning is a joy. For me, the most joyous thing is actually to learn. I love to read, I love to learn, and always trying to find more time to do that. And try to learn things outside your comfort zone. Okay. Now, fast track skills acquisition. Moving forward, skills acquisition is going to be hugely important, and I'm going to cover it in another one or two slides. Now, one thing that we fail to learn is we fail to learn to fail. A very important thing is to learn to cope with failure. Many people, when they fail, then they give up. I failed, and then they feel sorry for them. You feel sorry for yourself for a while. But the key thing is, if you just fail and then stop there, you're not learning anything. I always tell people, the idea of failing is fine, but learn from your failure. You see, and the problem we have in our whole education system is we're not teaching people. If somebody fails, of course, they're like, oh, he failed. He didn't get 10 A's. So it's a system that, you got 10 A's, 5 A's, 9 A's. That's always what we do. Unfortunately, that is a part of the whole ecosystem. But People like Edison and so on, they said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I actually learned 1,000 ways not to do it before you got to succeed. So you have to learn to fail and then find a mentor. You must find a mentor. I think we've got some friends from Philippines who are here today. There's a project called AMEN, which is actually out of ASEAN-backed Philippines, the ASEAN Mentorship for Entrepreneurs Network. I work with them for the Malaysian side. It's very important for you to have a mentor. Now, that mentor could be somebody who's running a business, and the mentor mustn't be someone who's looking at you as a competitor or future person who's going to. You need to find a mentor who's willing to share, who's willing. Or that mentor sometimes could be, your mentor could be like, okay, Steve Jobs, and I go and read and find out what Steve Jobs does or whatever it is, or Bill Gates, for example, and see and try. So sometimes the mentor could be somebody that you're just learning from all his literature and what he has. Sometimes a mentor could be a person that you actually have access to, that you can actually talk to, meet once a month, and so on. So I actually help with mentoring a lot of different businesses to try and help them grow, because I always feel it's crucial for that. So keep learning, okay? Keep learning, because it's similar to the relevant slide. Now, fast track skill acquisition is going to be very important. You must now learn how to acquire skills quickly. Now, that skill could be a skill of learning to play the piano. It could be a skill of learning how to give a talk, to improve negotiation. All of these aspects are matters that you can look at. So these are some of the things I keep trying to tell people. And another thing is this: if you can, try and be a polymath. A polymath is P-O-L-Y-M-A-T-H. Okay, a polymath. A polymath is a person who has multiple interests. I think the greatest polymath who ever lived probably was Leonardo da Vinci, because he was so good at everything from art. He even did sculpting, from his designs and drawings and architecture, and a lot of the things he did was, yeah. If you dabble in different things, for example, you're working and then you dabble in music, or you dabble in art, or you dabble in sports, you play, you do different things, it actually gives you different perspectives, and the way of thinking is also very different. So even Churchill is a polymath. Zuckerberg, for example, other than tech, he also did psychology and did other areas of human behavior, because that was very important for Facebook to understand people. So a polymath is basic. Don't just study just one field and look at one field. Try to look at doing different things. So, for example, if you learn how to play the piano or the guitar, and you're doing whatever work you're managing office, you will find that it actually improves you throughout. So list how we're going to continuously and consistent learning. We've now created these things called Back for Life, where we run tons of sessions. We have access to online learning platform. We're trying to tell the students and everybody, even the staff, once you've finished your degree or whatever, it doesn't mean you know everything. You got to continuously learn and develop and pick things that interest you. Now, building competencies. This is crucial for all of us as individuals and also as companies. Okay. Now, when you want to build competencies, also ask, is it necessary? Do you need this competency? All of you, the homework is, what competencies do you have? You want to go and see. So your competency could be this. Okay, I can speak Mandarin, English, and Bahasa. Well, okay, I can speak 3 languages. So in some places, they can say, I can speak Mandarin, Tamil, French, whatever. So language competencies. Then I'm good at negotiating. I'm good at preparing PowerPoint slides. I can run presentations well. I can draft, if it's illegal, I can draft documents. I'm good at drafting contracts, whatever. I've got good digital marketing skills. I can use a computer very well. I know how to use Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access, whatever it is. I can use all of these different types of. So you want to write and see what competencies. I can play the guitar and sing, for example. So you want to say, I'm good at organizing and project management. I've got good project management. You want to list down what are the competencies you have, and then you want to see what competencies do you need to develop both for yourself and for your business. What competencies do you need to develop for yourself and for your business? These are 2 aspects that you have got to look at. So these are all the competencies I have. These are the competencies I need to develop. Now, also look and see how can you leverage technology to improve productivity, improve revenue. So another competency is the ability to improve or strengthen your ability. Another competency you may need is how do you scale. So let's say you set up one restaurant and you're selling, in this restaurant you're selling nasi lemak. Now, you want to then see, okay, say this is the best nasi lemak in the Klang Valley. Now say, how can I scale and open restaurants all over Malaysia on this restaurant base? Do I have the ability to scale? Do I know how to run the kitchen effectively? Do I know how the ability to scale and send it across? Because that's one of the things we are trying to learn now. Because BAC has done very well in Malaysia. We've now got a college that we've acquired and now set up BAC College in Singapore. But what we're trying to do now is to see how do we scale across the region, because a lot of people are asking us, can you come and set up in this country? Can you come and set up in, we've had, different things. Can you set up in China? Can you set up in Sri Lanka? Can you come set up in India? And we're trying to see, we need to build and see how we want to enter these markets and how we're going to scale. So that is one competency I want to build for ourselves. And we're now hiring people. Either we train our people to be able to scale, or we go bring people who have that experience of scaling across different countries. Because if we create these competencies for our local businesses, if you look, McDonald's, KFC, Starbucks, all of these chains have really moved across the globe. But how many Malaysian chains are out there? And honestly, we have the best food in the world. Okay, we have, I think, the best variety between our kway teow, our roti canai, our nasi lemak. We have the best food in the world. But we need to get our guys trained so we can actually go out there and take some of these best food. I mean, we have tacos, we have, so much that's coming here. But some of these food, we have got to sit down and see how do we take it out. And I mean, of course, these are tough times to be thinking of scaling across so many borders and, becoming worldwide hits or whatever it is. But we need to see. So for me, you have got to see now how to acquire skills, how to build competencies. And a lot of the things we're doing under Project Deep is to build people's competency in things like digital marketing, social media marketing, IT skills, Like for me, my thing is, I look and try and say, how can I improve competency in terms of leadership and strategy? Because that's my job. How do I improve on strategy? So all of us have to sit down and look and see what can we do there. Now, learn to delegate. Now, if you're running a company, and I think many of y'all are the ones who are here are entrepreneurs, or some of y'all are holding senior positions, and some of you are looking at setting up a business, you have to learn to delegate. If you don't delegate, you will run into problems. Okay, and then you'll have too much work to do. You'll never have, so on. Delegate, I don't mean abdicate. Don't just dump everything on them. You got to give them some good, clear guidance, get them to do it, give them feedback. And if you delegate, then you can focus on the bigger picture. Another thing, spread the risk. Whenever you're doing any type of work, you have to make sure your company spread the risk. Never be reliant on one product. You see, I give an example. Let's say you're making CDs or CD-ROMs. When this whole thing changed, you're in trouble. When they changed and everything went to the cloud, they don't need CD-ROMs. And suddenly you close a factory with 20,000 workers in it. And you thought that, oh, these CD-ROMs will be, these CDs will be required, eternally. Now computers don't even come with drives for your CDs. Buy an external. So you must be ready to spread the risk. As I said, being relevant and spreading the risk. So like us, we are the largest law school in the country with about 80% market share. But one of the things I worry about is even with 80% market share, it's impossible to get 100%. And law is very jurisdictional based. So we have to look. So what we've done now is we've acquired ICT College, which is a college which is creative communications, mass comm. They do creative, so journalism, broadcasting, film, PR, marketing. Then we've got Reliance College, which is hospitality, tourism, which in the group. Then we have Veritas University, which delivers online programs. So we've got MBA, DBAs, Masters in Business, and we can deliver the programs in Malaysia or anywhere. We've got a school, Masters in Education school. Then we've got now a school in Singapore, BAC College Singapore, which delivers across. Now, why we do that? Because I didn't want to be, while I agree niche schools are the best and the best thing, we just wanted to make sure now we take the experience we have in our niche school and take whatever we've learned and start incorporating that in these other schools to help those schools grow and to become, better. But also because we never want to have the over-reliance on one type of product or one type of area. So spread the risk. Okay, you will see even for Apple, they had first, they had the iPod, then they came up with the iPhone, and then they came up with the iPad. So these three products are different types of products. Of course, they are focused in the sense they are limiting the product. So I do believe in what Job says, you have to have focus. So each of our companies, entities, focuses on one area. What we use is the methods to run. Now, if you look at, for example, some parties, some companies, they really have gone too much to the point that they want to make everything under the sun. So you have Sony was actually Steve Jobs' inspiration. He was inspired by Sony. When he went to see Sony, he was inspired. But one of the things about Sony is they do too much. They do televisions, they do phones, they do, every single thing under the sun. And it's you will see certain companies, the LG, they're doing everything under the sun under LG. And sometimes you actually do better by being more focused. But you need to spread your risk. And you may not put all your eggs in one basket. Have 2 or 3 things so that in case one industry is wiped out by disruption or any problem, you have a fallback. Okay, it's not the end of everything. Now, also spread the risk among customers. For some people, their customers, they just deal with government, or they just deal with one big customer. The problem there is this: change in government, change in the company that the one big customer, any change in this thing, you may lose. And if you build your entire business purely on one customer, you're asking for trouble, because then that customer is always going to have the be able to dictate things to you. So have multiple customers. Try to get, even if you got a government customer or a big company which is 30%, 40%, that's not as bad. But if you're dealing with one customer and you think like, oh, I get 100 million of business from this guy. I've got so many friends of mine who suddenly the contract comes to an end, or the contract has been terminated, or comes an issue, and the whole company is in problem. Spread the risk. Suppliers, even don't have just one supplier for your product. Make sure there are multiple suppliers. Make sure you have backup suppliers. Not for anything. If your supplier suddenly comes into trouble and he shuts down, then you're stuck. Employees as well. Now, I always say you should have, say for example, for a subject, we try to have multiple teachers teaching a subject. We try to have multiple people. Not for anything. If any of them fall sick, or suddenly, I mean, God forbid, passes on or whatever it is, or suddenly, now COVID, you have to make sure that life for your customers and for the rest, that you can still proceed and go on. Because in our case, we have 400 people who rely on us for a livelihood, staff-wise. Okay, now if we suddenly can't, have a problem, then we'll be stuck. So you want to make sure even the employees that you're not putting too much of a burden on any one person. You're spreading your burden. You're also not too reliant on any person in case anything happens. Okay, so that you are there. But that idea is also to help the employee. I mean, if not, he can't take a day off. He can't. So I keep trying to tell people, teach each other what you do and rotate. Because to me, what's my ambition? To make myself redundant in the company. I wish I could, to make myself redundant, that I actually have nothing to do. Everybody can do everything and I'm not needed. Then I can always move and do things which are more, what I find more fulfilling, doing community work and other things. Resources, spread the risk on resources as well, to make sure, like, sometimes now we have campuses in multiple locations, something goes wrong here, what can you do? You have to look at these things. So see what steps you have taken to spread the risk. Now, future ready. Get ready for the new normal. I mean, it's now face masks, all of us with our face masks and our social distancing and limited, keeping away from each other, staying, we are apart but together in a sense. Now, to me, there's no point complaining. It's here. We make the best out of it. And I think it's all a matter of us being kind to one another. Okay, sometimes businesses will need to try to do what they can. People will need to try to do what they can. The idea is just to be kind, have some level of empathy and compassion. If restaurants don't open, their staff won't have jobs. If people won't have places to eat. So all of us should just try and get ready for the new normal by being, in a sense, complying with the rules. Follow the social distancing, follow the sanitization, follow the norms that are there. Now, from a point of businesses, we need to redesign your product. So for us, earlier our classes were physical, because for BAC Malaysia, our licensing is for physical face-to-face classes. But now we operate hybrid. We run the classes on campus and we also broadcast it at the same time. And a student can choose, I come in or I stay at home. Now, in some cases, for students who are outstation, some find it's a huge saving. You don't have to come to KL, pay for a room, get a room, accommodation, get a car here, travel, eat out. They save about 12,000 ringgit maybe in all the other expenses by staying at home. But many of the kids want to come to college. Sometimes the parents say, stay here is better. Security reasons, safety is a key thing. People are thinking if there's a second. But we now had to redesign our product. So like our digital library has expanded. We've moved a lot of our activities. We now have, the moment the MCO started, we had Dota competition, PS4 competition, Hearthstone competition. We moved our yoga classes and Bollywood dancing and our Zumba and all of these things online as well. So we're also rethinking the whole, that whole hybrid type approach. One interesting thing is we did this tie-up now with Coursera for all our courses, where if they study now with the MBA, for every subject, they also get a module certificate from a leading American or British university for every module. So you could get a certificate from Illinois that is bundled together, or Duke, or these kind of things. Where because we've embedded the content into our course, because it's a new world, so we can do these things. We now, for our September group, the intake that's now in progress, students have lecturers now who will be teaching them on a weekly basis from universities like University of London, Oxford, Cambridge, Manchester, all these universities. So I've got 25 faculty from the UK who, in addition to our teachers, will be teaching them on a weekly basis. So that gives, it's a way of relooking the new way of delivering the product. So and we're not charging students anything extra for this. So this is why I said, one side of looking at things is discounting, but the other side is to say, what greater value can I do for the customers to give them a better experience and something they wouldn't have had. So we've invested millions of dollars actually during COVID. Every class has got new large screen, interactive whiteboards with cameras. That's 30,000 ringgit a class. We ordered 25 of these, for the main classrooms that are being used. Then we've invested hugely on technology, millions of dollars on content to increase the content base. So we've invested a lot in that content. And then now we've invested in teachers, not just from Malaysia, but we have teachers now, faculty in Malaysia, a faculty in Singapore, a faculty in UK, all of whom deliver courses. And every time we've now got a virtual internship platform coming in this month, where there'll be a few hundred companies, Malaysia and otherwise, who come in to do, offer, put projects up, which our students can do on, as interns. They could have a 1-week project, a 2-month internship, a 3-month, and everything done virtually. So you need to relook your business models. So we are working on 20 different projects now, okay, to totally change, and improve what we're doing. Now, I'm not saying everything will be fantastic and great, but we need to try. And we need to try, and in a lot of cases, we are pushing the envelope. Let's try and do this, okay? So we've got virtual education fairs, virtual graduation, exam proctoring, virtual proctoring, that you can, proctor exams anywhere, blockchain certificate. There's so many things that we have put in place. So you need to sit down and look at your business model. What am I doing? Is this the plan? Talk to people, get advice. Is this, what can I change? And then you also need to, in this new normal age, you need to look at gaps in your labor. Do you have the people? Like we had BAC Learn. One of the companies we have within the group is BAC Learn, which does the e-learning platforms. Earlier, we actually had 6 to 8 staff. We were running the free full-time staff. Now it's grown to 20 over staff in the last, and we're still hiring more people because we've got 6,000 students online in our institutions. We are also doing services now, putting other people online. We're also putting colleges, in the UK, for example, and a lot of these things is because we need to build the staff. So competencies, you need to look at where are the gaps in your competencies for this new normal, where are your gaps in your infrastructure, in your finance, do you have the money for it, and your technology. All of these gaps you need to address. It's going to be very crucial. You need to look and address all of these: labor, competency, infrastructure, finance, technology. Where are the gaps? Relook your whole business model for the future. I'm going to tell you there are no guarantees. Because honestly, no matter what we do, people will be coming in, there'll be new disruptive products, whatever. But to me, as long as you sit down to see, you're prepared to learn and to see how you're going to stay relevant and you're prepared to adapt, okay, you will have no problems. You'll be able to cope. Now, also look at your business continuity plan, and throughout, okay, you have to be a learning organization, continuously learning how to reinvent yourself, having contingency plan, building resilience, and then staying relevant. So if you're going to be future ready, you have to look at all of these things. Now, mega trends to look out for, I mean, these are just some. Actually, these are covered in a different talk called digital transformation. We look at a lot of those things here. But I think one of the key things that I find very interesting is the difference between us and the next generation. I come from the asset generation. When we were young, we would go and study, we finish, and then find a girlfriend, or in some cases we get a girlfriend, then we need to get a car because to move around, so we buy a car. Then later you get married. After you get married, then you decide whether you want to have kids. Then you want to buy a house, and you want to buy a house that's actually near a school as another thing. Like, can I get a house where it's near a school? So because the kids have to go to school, and so you buy a house, you buy a car. We're very much asset based. The new generation is very different. For the new generation, actually, they're more access based. I don't need a car. I can have Grab, so I have access to transport. I may not need to buy a house because I can just move around and stay, in whatever place. I can look at. I don't need to get an office, a big office, and rent. I can use a co-working space. So there is a huge difference in how we look at. You still need the asset in the sense that you sit in a house. It's just you access the house. People may probably be less likely to look at buying a house than having access, which is why you now have all these lease to own type things. Platforms are another huge area. All your Lazadas, your Alibabas, your Shopees, your Facebooks are platforms are. So look at the asset access. Today's generation will be more upset if they don't have internet access than if they don't have water and electricity. Sometimes I would think, water, no water. Okay, fine. No Wi-Fi. Oh, finish. That's the end of the world. So you must understand that this is the generation that are going to be your customers for the future. Okay, cloud services are growing. AI, machine learning, but these are things. Now, if your business is there, the way to grow is by looking how can you have new products and services. Okay, what new product and new product development is critical. Now, I think sometimes Jobs actually quoted Henry Ford in this one. Most people, when they're looking at new products, they try and do research. I research and then see what is needed and what is there and what people want. Jobs would say he didn't believe because he said my customers don't know what they want. Now, that's an exceptional way. They wouldn't have thought of the iPad. Like Henry Ford put it this way: if I asked people what they want, they would have said faster horses. They wouldn't have thought of the automobile. I mean, for Henry Ford, he actually put that statement, and Jobs actually borrowed that statement later and tweaked it. That he agreed with it. So if he had asked people what they want, they wouldn't have conceived the iPhone, the iPad, whatever. So in a lot of the times, to me, it's two things: whether you go out to customers and ask them what they want and create a product, or whether you look and think that here's a gap. This is something that can be done a generation better, like how Jobs did with the iPod. He looked at the MP3 and found that MP3 is still at limited storage. What if we took it one level further, and had a platform with all the music there? And actually, people like Napster had done this, but on a different basis. So if we look at that, he looks at what can we do a generation better. Then Netflix does the same thing. What can we do a generation? Everyone is there. So we have to ask. So like in my case, I said, okay, fine. We had this COVID thing. It's a huge problem. What can we do that's a generation better? So what we're doing now, okay, virtual internship. This will be something interesting. They can now all work for international companies across the globe on these kind of programs. So we're working to launch that. Then we look at things like launching a career advisor company to take them through out. Then we've brought in people like tons of lawyers and experts coming in to run more and more webinars. So like starting this September a lot. Then we said, let's get a UK faculty to teach them throughout the year. Then this dual certification type product. Then increasing. So our library now becomes, from September 30th, is now been rebranded as Abacus. Okay, you're a digital library which has everything from contents, millions of pages of content, thousands of videos that people can come in to learn, and again trying to push and redefine how things are done. So you got to see, how are you going to innovate things? What can you do that's a generation better? That at the same time, so we are spending millions because we believe that this is where we need to put our investment, and we believe that in the long run. Now, some of it, it may take some time to get the whole product, to get everything there, but we just need to make sure we are doing things constantly and always try and make sure that what can we do to help improve customer experience. Okay, now, and focus on a few products. Never wait till it's 100% ready, because sometimes you want to launch, you never launch it. Sometimes it's just better to launch it. I mean, iPhone 11 is there now. Okay, the 12 is coming out. They didn't launch all the features now in the first model. It goes and improves across time. Microsoft also often launches things when they launch, because the first 3 to 6 months they want to get feedback, get all the complaints, get whatever is there, and then they can work on it. Because if you launch, you can never launch something 100% ready, because you don't know what's going to go wrong or what people are going to be happy with, not happy with. So start. And when you have a restaurant, always create, whatever it is, whether it's a restaurant or product, create insanely great products. Because you have an insanely great product, it creates its own fans. So try your best to do, to do something that people will talk about. So Apple's got its diehard fans. You got, like myself, I use all the Microsoft products and for this Word, PowerPoint, and I've been using it for years and years. So it's there. So when you have a product that people like, if you go to a hotel and they give you like unbelievable service, you'll be talking about it for years. Now, another key important thing is this: build and protect your brand. Now, don't worry about your business brand only. Worry about your own brand. So your brand is your greatest asset, your personal brand and your business brand. And what is your brand? Your brand is the image that people have of your product or service, the image your customers have, or everybody out there has about your product or your service. And to me, it's the biggest asset you have. I think one of the things is Coca-Cola, for example. Coca-Cola some years ago, I think about 10, 15 years ago, a CEO of theirs wrote a book, which I read on Coke. And one of the key things is the Coke logo, the Coca-Cola, that famous red, white logo. The brand was so strong that actually they said, if you burn down every Coca-Cola factory, and this was then, every Coke factory, manufacturer, everything was closed. And if you just had that Coke brand, the Coca-Cola logo, and the recipe for Coke, okay, these two things, and you walked into his bank, you could raise $80 billion, US 80 billion funding. You know why? That brand is so strong. And they are global brands that you will know. I mean, there are so many brands. There's Google, or even the earlier ones, Coca-Cola, McDonald's. There's so many brands that are global in nature. Starbucks, for example. And then, of course, all the tech brands, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Oracle, these brands. The brand is the biggest asset you have. And you have to do everything you can to build your brand, to be consistent with your brand, and to protect that brand. And everybody in your company, your organization, should know and live the brand. Okay? Now, of course, at various times, your brand will have problems. Corporate reputation, people will attack, whatever it is. Just do your best to deal with it, but protect your brand. And for me, if you are a company and setting up, normally your brand and your personal brand and your are being quite related, because it will be tied into your values, okay, tied into what you have. Now, doing good. So, okay, branding is another area which I actually have a branding 101 3-hour talk on, I think about 25 rules on how to build a brand and what you should be doing. Okay, but that's another time. Doing good. Now, to me, businesses, we exist in an ecosystem in a world. And as I said earlier, it's people, planet, profits. Okay, in that order. So to me, I love this Henry Ford quote, which is success is doing more for the world than the world has done for you. And I think all of us should live with this. My goal and ambition is if we had 7 billion people in the whole world, okay, trying to do more for the world than the world has done for them, the planet will be fine. We'll have no problems. There will be no wars, there will be no poverty, there will be nothing. And a key thing is you have to try and see, how can you do this? So sometimes products and services that improve lives. I'm happy being in education because we get a chance to teach, we get a chance to to learn, we get a chance to improve lives. In many times, I'll see students 10 years, 20 years later. Now they have kids, and then they come in, and then sometimes their parents come and say, "Oh, I want to thank you." I was in a function where mom came up to me and said, and they were honoring her, but again, I'll tell you that, oh, my 2 granddaughters at your school, and they're both doing very well. And I just wanted to say thank you, and so on. And in other cases, my ex-students will just suddenly see them come up and say, hi, I'm here now. We're doing, and recently my wife also was pointing out, we were quite a few times recently met our students, and many of them are doing so well. I mean, living in nice homes and driving nice cars, and have built their family. And we just feel so privileged to be part of that journey. Education is one of those businesses where we call it shared value. It benefits the company in the sense we do charge a fee, we do make a profit, and then we try and channel those profits to social good activity, and it also benefits the community. So if you're going to a shared value business, that would be great. Okay, now look and see what you can do to do good. Social enterprises, charities, support projects that are relevant to you. So if you're a restaurant, maybe, and you're doing well, okay, no, if you're struggling, then I'm not saying, if you're doing well, maybe you could actually have like a meal voucher program on a particular day to those people who are, who've got no food, to sort of supply them food. You can say, okay, 100 vouchers and we'll supply food for this street feeding group. And many restaurants do these kind of things. Okay, if you're a school like us, you could maybe go and teach children, mobilize students to go and teach, mobilize your teachers to go and teach. So we used to run English teaching classes at orphanages on weekends, to help them with English classes on a weekly basis. And we've done this for refugees, we've done this for orphan kids, the poorer backgrounds and so on. So look and see, show you care as a business, enhance your CSR initiatives. Now, one of the key things is many times people don't know what to do. So when they don't know what to do, they just say, I plan to do, I'm going to do. Now, by the time you wait for when you're ready to do, and once this is done, you don't have to do big things. Whatever that you can do within your means, just do. And look at collaboration opportunities to engage in activities. Okay, so ask yourself now, how can you give back to the community? Two things you can do without breaking the bank. Nobody's saying you're going to give a lot of money or your back, nobody's saying you're going to do a lot. But every little bit counts. Okay, now to show you, these are some of the things we are doing. We have BAC Flick, which is free online tuition, about 170,000 students using it. We have Veritas University College, the world's first paid forward university. Basically, under the Veritas, the ethos, the purpose, if one student pays for free, another person who's poor, if they are B40 and they don't have funds, they study for free. So when a person signs up for the MBA, then we try and educate another student, say for a foundation program or for a degree. And the poor, generally, we don't want to charge them fees. So we have children who are poor, refugee kids, these kind of situations, as long as they show that they are unable to afford or they don't have money. So they don't even have to take a PTPTN loan if they don't want to, because you take the loan, you still got to pay, or they take that for the other expenses. So it is actually a world first that we set up, and we are trying to push this ethos forward. Project Deep is a 50 million education fund, which we set up and funding within BAC, where we're training 10,000 Malaysians for digital jobs. Now we're hoping this will complement measures by PERCESO, HRDF, MDAC, other government ventures that are there. But this is something that we are actually funding because I seriously think we need to get Malaysians employed. And if we really want the big companies like, the Microsofts, the Oracles, the Googles, and even those much smaller than them, like with 50 staff, 100 staff to come in, we need to have a digital ready workforce to work for the digital jobs. And one of the key things we're also doing is making sure that those who are studying law also are learning AI, blockchain, and picking up, because they need to build all of these competencies. Okay, it's no longer, there's a convergence. The Make It Right movement is our community development arm. We work with over 200 NGOs in community development project. We help these guys raise how to build their profile, how to run their NGOs, how to, simply get things done in a more efficient manner. Give Back is a crowdfunding portal which we set up during COVID, and we worked with, so we managed to get food for 5,000 people, for their monthly food. We I think gave meals to something like 20,000 meals. I mean, they're all different things, but it was just something that we set up. Good News is a news portal for uplifting and inspiring news. I get fed up reading negative news every day. This happened, so there's either natural disasters, wars, political things that depresses me. So we said, let's create a portal, goodnews.com.my, a news portal for uplifting and inspiring news. People who are doing great things, heroes that we have in Malaysia, Malaysians who have aspired and done great things, and also people generally who have done, outside that inspire all of us. So it's all to try and tell people that every single person has the power and the ability to do awesome things, way beyond what you think possible. Gradjobs.com.my is actually a job portal for graduates. 350,000 people are going to enter the job market in Malaysia this year. And actually, it's the worst time to be entering the job market. So one of the things we wanted to do was, I said, let's create this portal, start getting graduates to upload their resumes, and then start getting employers to put content on it. We're also working with PERCESO. All of it is free. All the services are free, so we come in, and then if these graduates don't have the skills to get them a job, under Project Deep, we will train them, whether we train them to become entrepreneurs, we train them to become, digital marketers, social media, we will help train them, give them that qualification, and hopefully, this year and next year, get everybody, Malaysians, others, through this, through this tough time. And slowly with the things like the internship platforms, they're virtual, they could be foreign jobs, they come in virtually, which they can actually do while even being from here without having to travel. Special Jobs is a job portal we created for the special needs community. The portal doesn't do much because, to be honest, people don't go and advertise jobs in a special needs portal, but we actually get people to upload their resumes. And if they contact us, we try as far as possible to get them jobs. Because for us, we believe that we have to have an inclusive workforce. People from, genders, different ages, different, abilities, okay, should all be given a chance to work. So our Make It Right movement, 80% of the staff in our Make It Right movement, which is a separate company that does the charity work, are special needs, under special needs category. So we now work with companies to try and say, okay, can you employ 15 people, 20 people? We try and assist the company to assimilate the staff into their community. Actually, you find it's actually, when you do these kind of things, it actually inspires you, and it's it's a great thing when people in your workforce, if they actually see this, they also inspire. I think they will realize the company they're working for is doing great things. The BAC Education Fund, this is a 20 million merit financial aid fund. For years, we've been running, we run different scholarships on a yearly basis for students on two. One is merit-based, depending on their performance. The other one is financial. So if they have poor backgrounds, then they go through a scholarship community. So these are just some. So we run more than 200 charity projects. So I give you an example. This talk today itself is part of our Transforming Lives Through Education. We want to educate. I'm hoping to create 10,000 entrepreneurs in Malaysia, other than the 10,000 for digital jobs. We want to run courses. We want to educate people. We run everything for free, even mentoring, because for me, the way to grow the economy while the government tries to do whatever they're trying to do is we have to complement it and come up with ways on ourselves. You can't put all the burden on government. There's no point, complaining. To me, when everybody is complaining or education, not happy, I say, okay, fine, set up a free online site. When talk about affordability education, I say, okay, we set up Veritas, we do as an online university and pay it forward. It's sort of a person who has money pays, someone undergraduate, somebody else can study for free, provided they're genuine. Project Deep, Malaysia doesn't have a digital workforce, complain. So I said, let's set up Project Deep. We'll train 10,000 people, we'll bear the cost of that. Okay, so it's there. Charity work, 200 NGOs. Now, a lot of people, there are great people out there who can do great things, but sometimes I think you put too much thought into a lot of these things. And we are very collaborative. So anyone out there wants to do anything to do with charity, to do something to help, and give back now, we actually we're trying to look for more projects. A lot of the projects we had were small, but we managed to raise the funding. And because of Project Deep and a few others, we found that, we are not a giant company. We are working with some people who are working and trying to do their best to cope with things. So go find something that you can do to do good. Today, this evening, we actually have a concert. It's the first concert that has been allowed at KLCC. Live support is done by event company PR Worldwide and Harith. Tonight, they're doing a comedy show. It's stand-up comedy. But because of the SOPs, it's a huge place. But because of the SOPs, there's only 250 people allowed. And there are 5 comedians. And we are sponsoring that under Life is Back. They asked us, Life is Back, live shows are back. But strict SOPs. So KLCC is working on it. We are helping to sponsor it. And these comedians are there. We managed to sell the ticket. Because bear in mind, for 6 months, they have had no shows. There's no performance at any space. And they've lost their income. So you have to see. So for us, now people think, why is that BAC's job? Because to me, our job is to try and see how we make sure everybody is employed on any industry. So next weekend, we actually have band night. Same thing, we're actually sponsoring 4 shows. Band night, we've got bands like Strollers, Heavy Machine, I think Lord and the Boys. There are a whole bunch of bands and groups coming to play. In what's the first live show that they'll be having in 6 months to 7 months. And I'm joining them to play as well. Okay, so I just set up a meeting with some guys for band. I play for fun for many years. So I'm also doing one set out of 6 bands, and we put it. And this gives them, for them, as a corporate company, we could just sit down there and say, and that's why I told you something about polymath. Try and learn to do different things. So next Saturday, we'll be having the show at KLCC. And we're trying to get people there and then hopefully help people. Because bear in mind, COVID is challenging for a lot of people. And we have to show people how they can earn an income, how they'll be able to learn to cope with the problems created by it. Okay, and if you do that, then we won't have a problem. Now, set yourself challenges, whatever it is. Always set yourself challenges for a business. Set targets, realistic targets. Okay, and something to work towards. So you could say, okay, this year my plan is to like break even and or do this, or this year it's survival and these are the figures we want to reach for revenue, number of customers, bottom line, this is there. So at the moment now, goals can be just, okay, until December 2020, what do I want to get, and where do I want to be, and then how you're going to achieve it. And then you're looking at your 3-year goals. But always, as an entrepreneur, you're very goal oriented. So set goals for yourself, personal goals, business goals. Yeah, you have to learn to enjoy life as well. These are the 7 life areas: family, to me, health and fitness. I have to admit I've been neglecting that quite a lot until, COVID. For me, COVID was one thing where I really put on even more weight than normal, because I always had access to good food, because we were eating a lot, and I think I was eating 3 times the amount of chocolates that I normally eat. But set aside time, like to me, health and fitness, simple thing, just walk a certain number of steps a day, get enough sleep, okay? But 7 hours of sleep per day is great, and then reduce your calories. So, 3 simple things, I think you'll be fine. Finance, look at your personal finances, your money, your savings, your bank loans, do you have money to, sort out all of these things? Get your finances in order. Work, okay, there's an aspect, so I put in a habit planner. Spiritual, your spiritual self, whether, religion is one part of spirituality, the other thing is also, self-awareness, mindfulness. Look at your spiritual uh, aspect, social aspect, friends, relatives, family, that aspect. And the last one is self. I think it's very important to spend time with yourself at some point in a day. Sit down, look at yourself, how you want to improve yourself, working on, having that conversation with yourself. Are you happy with where you are? What do you wish you could do more? Looking at examining your purpose in life, looking at things that you want to do. So learn to enjoy life. And I think that is one simple way of looking at it. There are very different ways of, I have another one with 12 different aspects, but it's a very simple. So set realistic short. So for example, like family, you could set a goal like, I want to spend the weekend, at least one day a week with family. Health and fitness, I want to walk 10,000 steps a day. I want to sleep 7 hours a day. Finance could be that, okay, I want to have a net worth of so much. So you look at all your things. I want to have a net worth of, say, 100,000 ringgit or 500,000 ringgit or 1 million, whatever it is. This is the net worth. And this is how my cash flow monthly, these are the monies that are going out. These are the structure. Work, how to work more effectively. You want to see how you can improve your use on technology at work. All of these kind of aspects. Okay, so spiritual, maybe, deciding, going to the mosque, going to the temple, going to the church, what that may be it. But spirituality is within also. So look and see. It's actually up to each of you, what you want, your relationship with God and also your relationship with the universe. And social, like, maybe like once a week I want to meet my friends, maybe it's your classmates, maybe it's your workmates, maybe it's your family members, once a week or twice a week, I want to have this type of thing, and make it a thing in the calendar that every week, every month at least, have one meeting with this group or that group, or you play golf or you play badminton or whatever it is that you do, but set up some goals. Now, the thing is, don't give up. Now, but please don't misunderstand this. When I say don't give up, I mean you have to face reality. Okay, pride and ego can hurt you. So, the key thing for me is this: I had in the same sense in 1996, 97. Before that, I had college. I'd sold the college. I was set it up when I was 23, 24. 4 years later, I sold it for 10 million, which was a lot of money at that time. And then we went into this huge IT business and so on. And then it became, with the currency falling from 250 to 6 ringgit for the US, we never foresaw that we were doing well in some of the entities. We had, I think, 70 million ringgit almost of work in that first year. And then all of a sudden we lost everything. The margins were killed, and we were having a lot of problems. So, it's tough. Different companies, we had a lot of great products. A lot of people had interest in buying this, doing that, but everything fell apart at the same time. But the key thing is, then I was driving a nice, I actually had bought a Mercedes, I bought a Rolls Royce. I was, 29 or 28. Then everything was a mess, house, car, all, gone. And then I just borrowed my father-in-law's Proton Saga and drove that for 2 years. the key thing I've learned in business is always be humble. Don't have an ego. And the reality is you must be prepared that you could lose everything. But whatever you lose, don't lose your senses, don't lose your ability to think, to decide, and you will be able to come back. And even if you lose everything and come back, okay, don't worry about what other people are going to say. So I think the most important lesson I've learned over time is the need to be humble at all times, the need to not have an ego. So it doesn't matter, what. Ego is the thing that spoils all of everybody. So if you can cure that, you'll be fine. And then if the business is really not doing well, then you may just have to close it. Just shut it down. Because I think that's one of the key problems. Sometimes people set up a restaurant and it's not going well. And they really, whatever they do is not turning, or they set up a shop. But they're so worried, but the relatives will say, he set up the restaurant, it closed down in 6 months, or the friends will be laughing at him. They're not paying your bills. They're not paying your bills. So to me, if closing down is the best decision, close, go reinvent yourself, do something new. Even if it means going back to employment, you tried business, it didn't work, you want to go back to employment, you go. In life, you don't owe anybody anything except yourself. So to me, entrepreneurship is, I would never do, I actually never had a job. My whole life, I've always worked, I've been an entrepreneur. I started as a joint venture with somebody on use their premises as a 50-50, and then I've been an entrepreneur throughout. So I don't really know what it's like to be an employee. But some people want that freedom to be an entrepreneur. Others are happier. They come out, they say, oh, there's a lot of work. I'm happier being an employee. Happier working for somebody. Do what makes you happy. To me, the end of the day in life, it's about having that purpose and doing whatever makes you happy. Not chasing money, not I want to have more money, I want this, I want that. But if a business is not working, shut it down. If you have tried every single thing, or find a mentor. I actually advise a lot of people. So sometimes I'll sit down, look at things, and I'll say, there is hope here. You can do. You're just doing A, B, C wrong. If you did this, it could work. And then you try, and it works. In some cases, I'll say, they say this is a problem. You look at it and you analyze, and I say, you did try this, right? There is actually no problem. It just is not going to work. Okay, so let's say, for example, there are certain businesses which are set up in the current, I'm not going to name the businesses, which will be just suicide. So if you are looking at something, reinvent yourself, do something new. And I've put here, is it working, your business? Should you continue how you are? Should you pivot, change it? Should you give up and start something new? These are questions you have to ask yourself. You have to be objective and realistic. You can't be sentimental and emotional. You need to shut down, Speak to a mentor and a trusted friend. Because a mentor that will give you good advice, or a trusted friend, that's the key thing. This is the BAC ecosystem. So on the top, we have the BAC ecosystem. These are some of our university partners. These are some of our industry partners. So like Microsoft Imagine Academy, actually AWS, Amazon Web Server Academy, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, the universities you will see here. We have Aber, Hull, Cardiff, London, Liverpool, Essex, Reading, Oxford, Brookes, Manchester, there are a whole bunch. And this is actually half the list, because this is just Brickfield Asia College. Within the group, we have, I think, double to triple these number of partners. And the BAC ecosystem is on top. We have Brickfield College, of course, the Law and Business School, ISCT, the Creative Com, Veritas, the online university, Reliance Hospitality and Tourism, BAC College. So a career advisor to help people. Back for Life is our new thing, to try and make sure that even after people graduate, they are continuously learning. Okay, the Digital Marketing Academy, the Digital Transformation Academy, these are, and IFO Academy are for all the new things, for Industry 4.0 training and things like robotics, machine learning, blockchain. We have them within the group. So even our law program, for example, now the students can study AI, they can study blockchain. We even cover things like 3D printing. So the idea is to give people special jobs. Is there jobs? BAC Flix is the free. Abacus is our new digital library. Grad Jobs, Make It Right. It's an ecosystem unlike any other, but a lot of this ecosystem is because we want to bring in specialists, and each person can look after a specialized company, and each of these companies then becomes a separate thing. Now, this is only the educational side. Behind this, we've got Facebury Communications, we have our IT company, app company, but that's nothing to do. This is actually the educational ecosystem. Okay, now, thanks a lot. Thank you. This is my email. don't email me stuff. Actually, I have to tell you that I don't generally read the emails. My mobile is there. So if you've got it on the screen now, take a photo of it, save it in your phone. If you need any help in terms of advice or mentoring or anything that you want to know or further questions, you can always ask me and I will be very happy to reply. Now, sometimes if you WhatsApp the first time and I don't reply, don't take it the wrong way. It's just that I'm in 100 over WhatsApp groups. As a matter of fact, I just turned to the left and saw my phone there. In the course of this, there are 152 messages. So sometimes the message may get lost. Generally, I scour through everything, and sometimes we do broadcasts. So because of the number of groups, every charity project we do, every community project we set up groups, every other project we set up groups, and I do a lot of work through the phone. But do WhatsApp me, and if you need help in terms of advice, mentoring, what to do, and I'll do the best I can. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have all the answers. So I'm basically done with whatever I wanted to say.